Welcome to Ocala, Florida, where we are set for the 2024 DEKA Fit World Championship. I am Xander Keene, joined by Luke Halterman, ready for an exciting weekend of hybrid racing. It all comes down to this, an exciting season of qualifiers across the globe. We got a good international presence, deep fields on both sides. We're maybe 5 to 10 minutes away from getting things started with the elite women's race. It's going to be a great weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, this has been building up to this anticipation of who is the best in the world this year. Obviously, we can all have our opinions on who those athletes may be and how they qualified. But today, it's going to be a matter, are you prepared? How has your training been? And I'm excited to see how all these athletes are going to do it.
Absolutely. The women's field headlined by Lauren Weeks, the world record holder, former world champion, multiple-time High Rocks world champion as well. But you've got last year's world champion Morgan Schulz in the field. Some newer faces like Catherine Fassbender, who's come on the scene this year and put down the second fastest seed time coming in, and should have a lot of movement kind of in that mid-pack as well, fighting for podium position. It's going to be an exciting race.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is the weekend we're supposed to celebrate fitness, as Yancey announces, and of course, when we celebrate the DEKA Cyborgs, the best in the world. So what's your opinion on the international presence that is coming into this field? Now, they're only used to really competing against themselves, and they're not maybe used to the American field that can maybe push them to faster times. Do these ladies and men as well, too, do they show up today? Do you believe that, Xander? Or do you think maybe they just realize North America is maybe where the elite field is?
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think we've got about 3 European international competitors in each field for these elite individual races. And yet, to your point, Spain has really become the hotbed of DEKA Fit internationally. And so, a lot of these athletes have raced several times, racked up podiums overseas, but never really raced against other people, the Americans or the Canadians that are here. They haven't raced against the Spaniards or the other Europeans. So it'll be interesting. I would expect, especially, on the men's side, someone like Alfonso Ruiz, who's mixed up in High Rocks as well, someone like that to be aggressive from the start. But I think it'll be a lot of kind of just finding out, how they stack up, especially in this women's race when someone like Lauren Weeks, with her pedigree and success across all kinds of forms of competition, does someone try to go out with her early, or do they realize that, hey, there's, 10 to 12 athletes here. I'm trying to figure out where I stand and feel it out that way for the first couple of laps.
Absolutely. This is actually the world championships, so it's finally we're getting some international presence into the sport. DEKA is only still growing as a sport. This has been the best year as far as participation, athlete account, financially speaking. It's only growing from here, and I'm excited to see what these people from Spain are bringing as well.
Yeah, and obviously we're focusing on the elite races as we get a look at the warm-up zone here. These elite female athletes getting ready in about 5 to 10 minutes from getting underway as final preparations underway. I think we're just a few minutes away from the athlete call-out, so pretty stacked field. Excited to see what they can do.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we had an announcement that Tara Jackson may not be competing, but it seems that she's warming up on the rower. So I would like to assume that she is, which, Xander, that's going to change my podium picks that we were discussing just about 10 minutes ago, which I guess let's go ahead and clarify that. Who do you believe is going to take the podium and the world championship today?
Sure, put me on the spot right away. I mean, I think it's hard to bet against Lauren Weeks, right?
Absolutely.
Given what she's done both in DEKA Fit previously when she stepped in, her success in High Rocks, even at OCR, still mixing up despite, a multiple-time High Rocks world champion, still mixing up in Spartan races in the mountains as well. Given her seed time, given that she set the world record this year, I think Lauren Weeks, is the odds-on favorite for the win. Morgan Schulz has been racing well recently, and Tara, I think those two, along with Catherine Fassbender, it's hard to say. I mean, I think maybe Catherine second and a battle between Morgan and Tara for third place.
I like those picks. You can't be wrong. Honestly, with any of these women, even the international presence from France here, Angelique Chateauneau, she very well, I mean, she's coming in as the last seed, but it's hard to tell. They're coming in at 36.15 that she could be very capable of a 34-minute. That's the other thing that we are not sure how the training has been for any of these ladies as of late, other than just maybe the performances of recent races. But I completely agree. I think Lauren Weeks takes this. She's going to be the first ever. Mike, if you don't mind getting on the start line. All right, folks, sorry about that. And I think Lauren Weeks will be crowned world champion this year, and I think she's going to be the first ever High Rocks world champion and DEKA world champion, just claiming herself even more as to why she is the greatest of all time to do any hybrid fitness racing. I will say Tara Jackson in second if she is in fact competing. If not, I like Morgan Schulz in that position as well too. And then I'm going to throw a dark horse out there. Mainly, and I'm a little biased only because she's my partner tomorrow in the co-ed elite. But watch out for Bree Schrader, folks. She's got some wheels on her.
You see the athlete call-out starting out, Allison Outlaw, who had a great race earlier this year, I think stacking a podium position. Kind of this is the mid-pack of the field being called out right now.
As you can see, Bridget Brown also in that white T-shirt. She just recently ran a very fast High Rocks time. She is back I think in podium shape, and she also podiumed the first ever DEKA World Championships back in the day in 2022. Back in the day, but so watch out for Bridget Brown as well to make a move for podium today.
And there's Katie Duke. You saw just before that. Tanya from Luxembourg. That was the Luxembourg flag there up on the screen. 3 athletes from Europe competing here. We mentioned Angelique Tetno from France, Tanya from Luxembourg, and then coming up in a little bit, we'll have a Spanish athlete who's actually the 5th seed coming in. So, like you mentioned, Luke, this is the most international or most outside of North America, I should say, DEKA Fit World Championship that we've seen so far this year.
Absolutely. And, of course, who could forget Katie? She came out of nowhere. Well, don't necessarily see Katie at the moment. There's Morgan Schulz right there, last year's world champ.
What's interesting, Luke, is that some of these seed times this year aren't quite at the level that the athletes have put on the board in previous years. And I think what we've seen a lot this season has been strong performances, but races won by significant gaps. I think this is by far the deepest field that we've seen to this point this year, as you would expect at the World Championship. But this is really probably the first time that someone possibly like Lauren or Morgan will have been challenged, late in the race. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Do we see a world record today with this field?
I think we often see in hybrid racing that when athletes are pushing each other, that's when fast times and world records can happen. So if someone is there with Lauren early or whoever happens to be in front, that would be the opportunity. And there is Katie Ambrosio in front. I think we missed her during the call-out, but she's someone who came out of nowhere earlier this year, won a dominant race, had barely even heard of DEKA Fit. Someone had told her about it, I think, a week or two before one of the California races, and she came out with a strong performance, a great running background that she has. You see her in the all-black there, front and center. So I think that's someone who certainly has the running ability to mix it up, comes in as the 6th seed. And, of course, Lauren Weeks there in the light purple top, considered the favorite. Catherine Fossbender in the royal blue next to her. We're just a few minutes away. A group shot before they get things going here. We've already had a busy morning. A lot of the female age group heats and ruck division have gone. It'll be a mostly but not completely clear course, I think, for these women, but should be plenty of room for them to operate here.
Absolutely. Still fast regardless. Absolutely. I'm used to saying there's a lot of abs on a men's start line, but these ladies are definitely putting us to shame, Xander. There's Janelle Teal on the far right. That's another name to look out for as well. She ran, I believe, in the 2nd heat last year and still finished top 10 in the World Championships. All these women you can make a case for today. But I'll be honest, Xander, I think if a world record is going to be broken, it's only going to be Lauren and Lauren's race only, and she's really wants to do. She's the only woman to go sub 32. When really the conversation that I believe at the beginning of the year was how many women can do 33. That's the barrier, it seems. For men, it's the sub-30 mark, but for women, sub-33. Lauren has now pushed that boundary to the 32. So how many women are going to break 33 to hopefully stand behind Lauren as she prepares to crush the field today?
And there are 2 other women in this field who have gone sub-33 before, that being Tara and Morgan. But this year, Lauren Weeks is the only female competitor to go sub-33 and then also sub-32 with that 31:58 world record. So that's kind of setting the stage for this race where she comes in more than a minute faster than anyone else in this field in 2024. Hence, she's the odds-on favorite. But, someone like Catherine who came out, ran a 33:15, that's
fast.
After your first couple races, that's when you can really kind of change your strategy, obviously get fitter in training and be prepared to take a significant chunk of time off. So there's the potential there. And we've already seen Morgan run sub 33 and win a world championship as well.
Absolutely. And Morgan came in as a high seed last year too. I mean, she's another athlete that no one, I didn't pick her for the podium pick last year. It's hard to argue her state for today that she is all DEKA fit. And she very well could beat Lauren Weeks today. And Lauren Weeks has still yet to podium at DEKA World Championships. I believe she finished 5th on the first World Championship. So, I mean, she does have a case to make today for the DEKA Fit arena. And in other words, I'm looking forward to the show. I'm ready for this. This should be a fast field. I think a lot of women do PR today. I do not think a world record will be broken, but it'd be great to see it. But I do think I see a lot of PRs today.
You see there the 2024 top times, and the number 2 and number 3 athletes, Vivian Tafuto and Lauren Griffith, not competing here today, as well as Jess Petro and Michaela Norman. So of that top 10, we'll have 6 of them in this field. And again, Lauren more than a minute faster than anyone else competing here today. But Tara, former world champion, Morgan, former world champion, Catherine Crossbender has come onto the scene this year with a very strong time. Other strong athletes in the middle of this pack as well. So just because 2 and 3 aren't here in the building.
Yeah, no Tara at the start line. So it does appear that she is not competing, which then goes back to my second pick of Morgan Schulz, excuse me, of getting second place today. Right behind the battle between Bridget Brown and Bree Schrader is going to be my guess on the podium pick. I think Bridget is definitely ready to bring it today. Well, what's your thoughts, Sander, on where the mix-up is going to happen? Usually, of course, we've done this countless times where we know the first 3 stations, there's really not much breakup, right? They're all pretty much going to stay together. But it's the stations 4 through 6 where you see a little bit of separation of who's ready to contend for the podium. Of course, the rest of the pack not too far behind could make a potential move, and then we all know it comes down to the assault bike, and the rest on from there is the battle of position. Where do you think today in the World Championships, is it done early or is it more as the usual?
I think right at the start, we're going to find out who, if anyone, is going to try and run with Lauren. And that will sort of set the stage, I think, for the first half of the race.
Catherine, yeah.
Someone like Catherine, or maybe, Katie, who has the running background and basically ran by herself for the second half of the one race she did. And here we go. So all that speculation, we're about to find out as the elite female heat in the 2024 DEKA Fit World Championships is underway. And immediately, Lauren Weeks has put a gap in on the field.
Runs like the Terminator. Hunter says it best. She is here to bring the pain. I hope the ladies are ready to burn a little bit with her. This is the first time that we will see the ladies competing with people on the course as well too, just like in a High Rocks. I mean, I imagine most of these women are used to it at this point, a couple of years into it, but this will be different. This is unique, and same for the men shortly after.
Yeah, we often see, sort of a second men's elite heat on the course when the women are running, but that's only, 10 to 12 people, and they're obviously moving at a much closer speed to what these women are. So, yeah, there's a lot more traffic here. Lauren certainly has the experience doing that in High Rocks, and you can see just a minute into this race, she is all by herself, at least on this screen. So it'll be interesting to see what that gap is from this first run, because this is, your one free shot at an uncompromised run to start with. And
absolutely,
you're not worried about Lauren Weeks cooking it too much early on, but for some of these other athletes trying to put themselves in position, it's easy to get caught up and get excited in this first run and then get hit with reality once you start the lunges.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see how Monza Quiro does from Spain. She has almost the amount of podiums that Tara Jackson has just from overseas. So I'm excited to see how she competes with the rest of the field here in America.
So it's about an 8-second gap right away on that first run. Lauren in first, and then Catherine and Morgan pretty much stride for stride in second and third, and now more or less the rest of the field in behind them. So early on, big separation at the very front. a smaller separation with 2-3 back to the rest of the field.
Xander, this is where finally, this has been controversy all year. Zone 1, what is a reverse lunge? Ugly Dave has made it very important to tell everyone that you need to come up to a center line. Lauren already out. Let's clock her at 2:15. Or make it very clear that they will no rep you. Will we finally see a no rep in the DEKA Fit Arena?
Well, it doesn't look like from these first few athletes, so.
No, I think they're doing it clear, and Dave made it very apparent as well too. Do not leave it in the judge's hands, and I couldn't agree with him more. As an athlete, you should come in knowing the standard. I get we always want to kind of push the boundaries of what that gray area it is, but at the same time, don't do it. It might cost you in the long run.
You see on the screen there, the zone time for the reverse lunges. Not a lot of separation. That's what we expect. You can only make up so much time at this level in a station like that. Now, Lauren and Catherine did have the two fastest times in the zone. As Lauren, you can see, only extending her lead here.
And I think Lauren had about a 9-10 second lead before Catherine came out of zone 1. So not too much of a gap, but at the same time, Lauren is making it very apparent who wants to keep up, who's ready to suffer a little bit.
And I think Morgan was a little bit behind Catherine coming out of zone 1, but then passed her on this run. And Morgan, with a middle distance collegiate running background, someone who's been competing in this space for a long time, certainly will try to use the run to her advantage, whether that be trying to catch up to Lauren later on or solidifying a podium position. But interesting to see if that continues to unfold with you might have one athlete a little bit stronger in most of the stations and then another one who's a bit faster, which leads you to a bit of a yo-yo back and forth.
Absolutely.
Throughout the course of the race.
Yep. And that's that definitely speaks volumes for the first two stations because, of course, now we have the rower, which 500 meters. Typically for someone who's maybe not too strong on the rower, which Lauren is, of course, 500 meters I wouldn't say is necessarily a distance where you can make too much of a ground, but it can make about 3 to 5 seconds. And I can make this the narrative of the race. In the long run, it could pay off.
Screen's a little pixelated, but looked like Lauren was rowing right about a 150, which is pretty strong for a 500-meter time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think 150, 155 is very appropriate for a DEKA Fit standard. I think 140, 145 might be pushing it just a bit. If you're ready to run a little bit more compromise on your next run, by all means, and it may pay off. Seems like we got most of the ladies' field in here. This is where I believe Morgan makes a bit of a push right here because she is definitely one of the stronger female athletes.
And Morgan, one of the taller athletes, which can definitely be an advantage on the rower. Just
Absolutely.
If you've got your form down, you can make up a lot more ground with every stroke given that height. And certainly Morgan, somewhat the experience racing in the hybrid arena, is able to do that. So interesting to see how she compares to Catherine coming out of the zone because they've been pretty close together.
This is pretty good. This, for everyone at home that's maybe never ever watched a DEKA Fit race before, just keep in mind all these ladies are going to be very bunched up within the next maybe still 5 minutes of this race. But we will start seeing some separation soon, and it's just going to be exciting to see who is going to, in fact, going to be those people.
Yeah, like you said, Luke, even if you're rowing faster, it still may only be 5 seconds
Correct.
at most compared to some of these other athletes. And coming up next, you've got the box step overs, you've got the med ball sit-ups. Not a lot of time really because those are two of the faster stations.
Correct.
You're not going to be able to make up a lot of time in that station specifically, but it's more how do you withstand that going into the skier toward the halfway point of this race, knowing what's coming up 2 zones after that in the assault bike. So Lauren Weeks, 6 minutes in, you see there pretty much identical times on the rower. Now that's including transition, so they were definitely rowing faster than 2:04. But transition time, adjusting the equipment, it all ends up with almost no change on the station. So that speaks to where the rower fits in this race.
Yeah, I just don't think the distance is long enough to make a very pivotal move. However, though, I think there are the three most important runs in the DEKA Fit race. One of them being immediately after the rower because your legs are usually a little bit compromised. So it depends on how willing you're able to push the pace on that run. Also, too, the run after the ski erg, and then, of course, the run after the assault bike. I think those are the three most important splits that you could do because your body and your aerobic system is usually very compromised at that point.
Yeah, the run after the ski erg definitely can sneak up on you because your legs aren't as active there as they are in some of the other stations, but it's such an attack on your core having just done a core heavy movement in the sit-ups right before that it's really a death by 1,000 cut situation. You've still got half the race to go.
And Lauren already lapping the field. Man, she is moving. Already in on station 3. Let's see, 7:39.
And keep in mind, she's lapping athletes that have been podium contenders at
Correct.
races throughout the course of the year.
Correct.
Stephanie Hillman, I believe, was on the podium here in Ocala.
She was 2 for 2. Each podium she had, she won. So these are all respected female athletes. So what Lauren is doing is just only solidifying. Wow, she has a very dominant lead right now.
In about 20-plus seconds, you see Catherine and Morgan quite literally even as they almost ran into each other there. But, yeah, step for step over these box step overs. Again, this is still the first third of the race. Lauren is out at about 8:19.
This is going to be a fun battle between Morgan and Catherine. All right, here comes Katie Duke. Oh, wow, Katie Duke making a move with Bridget and Katie.
Maybe Lauren.
And then 3 more athletes right after them. So, we'll see still a lot of race to go. If Morgan and Catherine are, at this point in a fairly decent podium position, you've got a pack of close to 10 athletes fighting for 4 through 10 plus. And this is going to be exciting because you know that for these athletes in a world championship, yes, even if the podium isn't in the cards, like you're still fighting for the best position you can possibly get. So they're going to be getting after it the rest of this race, trying to chase down Morgan and Catherine as well, because you just never know what can happen after the bike.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's when you have outside of the battle of the podium for the other females that are competing, that's more of the cluster group. And this is where I see all the personal best or personal records happening, because they're going to the ability to push yourselves to go a little bit more to battle for position. They'll be able to get much faster times because of it. Yeah, Lauren is just killing it right now. Her form is still strong. Of course, never doubted it, of course. I don't think anyone at home could argue that either.
Just coming up on 10 minutes into this race. Again, Lauren Weeks is on run number 4. She'll have med ball sit-ups coming up here next time she comes around.
Shout out to all the rabbits that are hustling around with these fast women, knowing the men are up next as well. Yeah, so Lauren is in the setups at the moment. Yep. I think she should be finishing, or at least maybe have about 5 to 7 reps left before second place comes in.
And Lauren definitely seems very under control here for these sit-ups, understanding that it's not worth whatever additional effort it might take to take
Correct.
2 or 3 seconds off in this station.
Correct. She is in full control of her first place right now. She knows very well maybe spots that she feels like she could back off and control, because I think she's just killing it on these run splits right now.
Catherine came into the zone a little bit ahead of Morgan, and we saw the split times for the box step overs, and Morgan was a little bit slower than both Lauren and Catherine there, so that might have made the difference. But again, this race is still early on. Those two are going to be neck and neck battling back and forth probably the whole way. As we get a good look here, you have Catherine Fossbender in the royal blue top on the right and Morgan Schulz in the black t-shirt on the left. They're both into the second half of these sit-ups as the rest of the field comes in.
Yeah, you can see there's still a cluster of women coming in and whatnot. Now, you can tell the podium contenders are starting to push away a little bit now that we're leading into the second portion of the race with stations 4 through 6. But Bridget Brown and Katie Duke are feeding off each other right now. They very well could reel in Morgan and Catherine, so they Morgan and Catherine need to know that there are people breathing down their neck right now.
You see it again here. Very little, if any, separation on the med ball sit-ups themselves. Lauren Weeks in set screen has a very strong gap on the field right now.
Wow,
Catherine
Katie
Fossbender
Duke,
a little bit ahead of Morgan. And yeah, there's Katie Duke maybe realizing that, okay, now I've got to start to push a little bit if one of these athletes crack later on.
Now that's a decent makeup time right there. That really is. And on a station that really you don't think too much of it being a big difference maker. As you can see, like Katie D'Ambrosia, of course, doing a little bit over a minute, so she's losing some time, 5 seconds. Could cost her, a position or two.
Yeah, that 47 seconds for Katie Duke there stands out. You look
1
through 10, almost everyone more or less within 3 seconds of each other.
Absolutely.
And Katie nearly 10 seconds ahead of them as now Lauren Weeks comes into the skier.
All right, here's another station that you could definitely make a move on, I believe. Skier being 500 meters. Again, you can argue maybe the distance isn't long enough, but I disagree. I think the skier is a prime spot to make a move. Definitely if you're a powerful athlete. I think pushing more a 145, 150 on the skier is not as costly as maybe doing a 140, 145 on the rower for your legs. Mainly because you're not compromising your legs too much on the skier, but it does obviously have its moments with the with your aerobic system, and I mean how anaerobic an athlete is coming into this. But like I mentioned, the run afterwards is the more important of how you capitalize on the station.
Yeah, you go from a full body station like this that's really going to blast your core coming off of a core heavy movement into what is more or less the least taxing station coming up next for most of these athletes in the farmer's carry. So yeah, the ski erg is somewhere where if you're going to push, you can try to do that and stay on it while still recovering, which sounds like an oxymoron, but knowing that you've got then run, farmers, run before the game changer in the assault bike.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you can see Morgan there with the slower cadence, taking full advantage of her height, just like on the rower. As a taller athlete, these ergs can be, pretty much right up your alley in a lot of situations.
You can argue to make a case that Morgan or Janelle Teal is like the more powerful athletes just due to their height and their size and their strength. But we can just argue that Lauren is just as strong, if not stronger, on a lot of these stations. So you can never count her out don't ever account for size for that matter, thinking that they're just better at the station. Lauren should be pretty close to finishing.
Yeah, you see the judges with their hands in the air, kind of signifying the hundreds of meters that are remaining. And yeah, Lauren Weeks is out just before the 15-minute mark.
So we'll see how close second and third. Now, Xander, when you're competing, if you were to go into the skier station, do you go right next to the person you're going head-to-head on as far as some mental games, or do you go on the other side so where you don't even – you're just in for yourself? Or what's your mindset when you do something like this?
It's interesting because we've seen the opposite for Morgan and Catherine than we saw earlier with the rower. They went opposite sides for the rower, and I think maybe that maybe Morgan is saying or Catherine is saying, all right, now maybe I want to know where they're at, if they're able to push as hard, because they're getting toward the part of the race now where it's starting to hurt a little bit more. And maybe it's more important to kind of, when you have a second, glance to your right, to your left, and try and get a little piece of information, because what you're pulling and how you're feeling, and if you can see what they're doing, then that might help kind of either you adjust your strategy or push a little bit harder.
Yeah, absolutely. I go right next to the competitor. You have to. That way, if you're pushing it. They always say when you run past someone, you surge past them, whether you're hurt or not. It's all mental game at the end, and it could very well deflate the person next to you. Lauren has about a 40-second advantage, and she's almost lapping Catherine. As you can see, Catherine right there in front of her on screen. This is maybe I take back the world record. I wish I could know the split maybe before going into the bike. Now, Lauren, it's the question of, do you back off the pedal just a bit, just to save yourself, just from maybe possibly blowing up? Or, I mean, do you just let it out knowing that you're within touch of world record of getting your first World DEKA Fit championship as well?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing because, I don't think either of us are worried about Lauren blowing up on the bike, but
Right.
it's more, does she want to, win and set a world record and really just lay it all out? Or, does she want to maybe back off a tiny bit on the bike to be able to run later and possibly make up more time?
Absolutely.
And maybe that's what she's thinking about right now is, again, this farmer's carry, no question for her, really, for any of these athletes, is she's going to roll through this and get back out on run number 7.
Yeah, it's going to honestly be up to her. I mean, if she wants it, she can have it. If she doesn't want it, she doesn't have to have it. So there is no other lady pushing her today. A full station ahead right now, which by the time Catherine is done with these farmer carries, Lauren should be either past her or close to passing her. Catherine looking strong in second, though. She's looking great. Let's see what type of lead she has on Morgan. Morgan not too far behind, maybe 20 meters.
It was about 17:26 on the clock when Lauren left this station. So, yeah, well above 30 seconds, close to 40. And you see Morgan trying to keep Catherine in sight.
Now the question remains, of course, now that Catherine's finishing this, how does her bike split happen? Because we know Morgan can kill it on the assault bike as well. And maybe that's what Morgan's preparing for, saying, hey, I'm not going to make a move on the farmer carry. Let me get this last run in right before the assault bike and then crush the bike. I feel like Morgan has to put the hammer down on that. She has to. She has to make a move on the bike. If not, she could very well see second place out the window because it appears to be Catherine's just a stronger runner.
Yeah, in the middle part of this race, Catherine has really changed the equation for this 2 and 3 spot. We saw the two of them pretty much stride for stride, one into one zone first, one out first, or passing each other on the run. However, now Catherine about a 15-second gap on Morgan for second place, and Lauren about 50 seconds ahead of Catherine as she's about to lap her here.
Wow.
Going into the assault bike.
Making a power move right here. Oh, I thought she was going to surge just a little bit. But that's not like Lauren's demeanor by any means. She is one of the nicest humans on the planet.
But that just goes to show the performance that Lauren Weeks is putting out here in this race, nearly lapping or essentially lapping second place, who herself is having a phenomenal race to this point.
And not just second place, but the second fastest woman of the year. I mean, this is not just someone who lastly signed up and became the second based off seeding. I mean, she is the second fastest woman of the year. Lauren is making a statement today with her fitness.
We come up on the 20-minute mark. Again, 31:58 is Lauren Weeks' seed time. Also the world record. First woman under 32. That was earlier this year.
Let's see. So she'll have 3 more runs left. Let's just say 2 minutes 6. She very well could break a world record today. Just even running 2-minute splits. All right, here comes Catherine. All right, now this is what I'm excited for. I'm excited to see if Morgan makes this move. And same for Catherine. To see if she knows that Morgan's right there. All right, here comes Morgan. Yep, getting the bike right next to her. Smart move. Smart move. I love that. I love it. You got to do it.
Morgan making sure she takes the time to adjust the seat.
Absolutely.
We've seen that cost her a little bit earlier this year.
Right. All right, Catherine and Morgan, they need to make a move on this right here. All right, Catherine and Morgan, and then of course the run following. Because Station 8, we kind of seen it with the over the wall. Not too much of a difference maker there. The sled absolutely can be a difference maker, and then the burpees, of course, that's just all momentum and adrenaline at that point.
Yeah, the ball's over the wall again. As much as recovery can be gained from a station where you're actually lifting weight and moving it, your heart rate comes way down. And so that is something that can really kind of help you reset a little bit going into that last run or the last 2 runs.
Wow. Lauren will be a full lap ahead, maybe by the time Morgan and Catherine finish. And there's Katie Duke and Bridget Brown in the back end, while Stephanie, Tanya, and the other female athletes, which they very well can make a move here too. I mean, let's not count them out, right? I know Katie and Bridget are really feeding off each other right now. The focus, of course, is on Catherine and Morgan. But we could have a surprise athlete come off this bike.
And you see Morgan kind of getting up off the bike. You really see the expression on her face,
She's in the pain cave.
Trying to push through the pain as much as possible. Really, both these athletes a lot less compact than Lauren in their movement, which I think speaks to the effort that they're putting forth right now. Absolutely. To try and, if you're in Morgan's case, make up time. If you're in Catherine's case, solidify the time gap that you do have.
For sure. Oh, this is exciting. We have a lot of women on the bike right now. All right, Catherine's off first. Let's see if about 22, 27. Yep. Morgan right behind her. All right, so she made a bit of a move on the bike. All right, let's see how this run fares afterwards.
About 8 seconds between Catherine and Morgan for second and third. You see, Morgan about 10 seconds on the bike. And the question becomes, how costly was that move in terms of her running ability for the rest of this race?
Absolutely.
So you gonna get her? You gonna get her first? I got it. I can't run anymore. Okay, I can do one lap.
Other female athlete is ready to push the pace to argue their top 5.
Okay, I'll run this
which I believe is going to be between Katie Duke and Bridget Brown right now. And don't count out Janelle Teal over there on the far right at the moment on the screen. She's a powerhouse.
There's a look at 4 and 5. Katie Duke just finishing, at least a few seconds ahead of Bridget.
Katie Duke last year got 9th at Worlds, so this will be a huge difference at the moment. Getting 4th if possible, and still chasing podium. Let's not, I mean, we still got 3 stations left, 3 runs left. Anything can happen. Seems like Lauren's kind of catching her breath in between. There's not really a sense of urgency at the moment for her. To be honest, I wonder if she's even aware of maybe where she sets time-wise. I know some athletes run with watches, others don't. It doesn't appear that she's running with one. And I don't know if her husband Anthony's out there yelling at her, letting her know her splits. I'm not sure.
Yeah, clearly she's aware of where she is in relation to the rest of the field. Correct. But yeah, in terms of time,
which is the most important thing, of course.
There is a video board here, but I'm not sure if the splits are really visible for them. Over to our right is the live stream itself, and so she can't really get a look at splits in that way. You see the video board there in the middle, but that's spooling through mostly age group results. And so, yeah, this might be a question of she knows where she's at in terms of effort and maybe not quite aware in terms of time, given that she isn't wearing a watch.
How accomplishing is this athlete? I mean, Lauren Weeks is, I hate to say it in a way, but that men just kind of, shine in a lot of the spotlight in a lot of fitness realms and just in many sports, right? But it's argued to say that Serena Williams is probably the greatest athlete of all time just based off what she's accomplished. And in our sport and hybrid fitness racing, Lauren Weeks is our Serena Williams. She is just a remarkable athlete, and it doesn't matter what fitness race she is doing, and even obstacle course races, she wins those too. It's just, she's the GOAT. There is no argument. She is the GOAT, and this is the one world championship title she does not have, and she's going to claim it today. And it just better solidifies her resume at the end as to why she's a first ballot Hall of Famer and the greatest of all time.
Yeah, and maybe the last 2 years as hybrid sports has continued to grow in both popularity and just in terms of athletes coming over, we've seen the specialization start to happen, right? Whether it's something a DEKA strong compared to a high rocks, and an athlete that can win in one form isn't going to be as successful in the other because the training they have to do for the one will compromise their ability in the other. Lauren Weeks seems to be the exception, despite, as much as the female field in hybrid of all forms has grown, she can win high rocks, she can do what she's doing right here in front of our eyes, but also compete in the mountains at a Spartan race. And you don't see these top athletes at this point in hybrid doing that.
Right.
At the same rate. And so, yeah, what she's able to do and really stay ready for anything while clearly training specifically for events that she's trying to succeed at is incredibly impressive.
Absolutely. And she is definitely on world record pace right now. If she is out of the sled by 28:30, there is no doubt in my mind that this woman right here can't break 31 today. Depending on, of course, how the speed of the burpees, but she's already on her second length at 27 minutes. 28, 30, 30. Yeah, she's definitely on world record pace right now. And she's probably going to be about 3 lengths done before Catherine comes in. I wonder maybe how far Katie Duke is behind. It seems like Katie Duke has pushed away from Bridget Brown a little bit.
And Catherine, I believe, just came in. And I see Morgan in the background there coming around. So Catherine maintaining that 15-second or so gap right now, and it may come down to the burpees for those two unless Morgan can really push here on the sled.
Yeah, it just seems to appear that the battle between Catherine and Morgan, Catherine's just a bit of a stronger runner, so I'm assuming that's where she's making up this ground or pushing the boundary between her and Morgan. Because the station time, Morgan's killing it.
I mean, you see Morgan pulling faster than Lauren right here. So Morgan knows that this is it. I mean, she's got to make a move here coming up because, again, if you've got something left, yes, you can make up a bit of time on the burpees, but this is a much longer station.
Absolutely. You only got one more run and one more station after this. You have to sell everything you have, and if it completely compromises your next run, at least you know you gave it your all. You have to do it. You got to sell yourself here right now.
I mean, Morgan is moving through this sled push and pull notably faster than our race leader, Lauren Weeks.
Absolutely. Morgan's one pull behind Catherine right now. She's making a move, and here comes Katie. All right, Lauren is out 28:50, 30, 30:50. Man,
it's going to be close.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting. What better way to break a world record when you win the world championship, right?
Absolutely. And what a way to start off this weekend of racing here on the elite side.
Absolutely. Let's see if Katie Duke makes a move. I'm afraid Catherine and Morgan might be just a little bit too far ahead. But again, you never know because, of course, the run, if you sell yourself a little bit more, I mean, those hammies get blown up on the sled pull. And Catherine is done. 29:41.
So Catherine's done. Looked like Morgan was just starting her last pull. So Catherine is still going to have a gap of close to 10 seconds, but she's got to stay on it on this run.
And I think Catherine knows it. Even though she's a new face to the sport, I think she's maybe a veteran in its own way of running, and she knows exactly where she's at, or as far as competition, that she knows she needs to push the pace to keep Morgan away.
And Morgan did her best, made up 5 seconds there, and it kind of shows you that Lauren Weeks in cruise control in terms of her effort, whereas these two are fighting each other off, and 30 seconds plus between Catherine and Morgan and Lauren's split time.
Yeah, it's if you were to look at that screen, you would think, oh, Lauren's gassing out and stuff. No, I think she was just playing her field, knowing that she's only got one more station.
And clearly she's got enough left on the run because she's pretty close to lapping Catherine. Didn't quite do it again, but that was the same situation they were in going into the bike. So Lauren withstood all that and was still a full lap ahead of Catherine here coming up to the ramp burpee. So here we go.
She's breaking the world record.
World record watch may be over as Lauren Weeks is going to fly through these, I believe, 16 more burpees, having more than a minute to work with.
And this is another station that we're going to be watching over the whole course of the weekend as far as what is an official burpee, what's an official lockout with the elbows at the top, who is going to get no reps, because we all know at the end everyone is rushing for position and battling. It's so easy to fling that ram up as well and to throw it at the end. Does that get called out? How strict will it be? I'm excited to see if that is going to be a factor at all this weekend.
Lauren Weeks into the second half of her burpees.
Oh, you got to go, Lauren. Let's go. 31:58 is the current world record. She is 28 seconds from it. She's got 5 more left. Oh, come on. Catherine is in on station 10 as well, too.
Lauren Weeks finishing her last two burpees. She's got 15 seconds left to break the world record. She sets the ram down, is across the line, breaks the world record unofficially 31:51. Lauren Weeks is your 2024 DEKA Fit Elite Female World Champion in the fastest time ever recorded in this event format.
Wow. Congratulations to Lauren. Never a moment of doubt with her. But now the battle between second and third. These two women will be on the podium today, but the question is who will be next to Lauren in second?
And you see Lauren Weeks there cheering on Catherine Fassbender, who came in ahead of Morgan Schulz. They're on opposite sides. They have no idea where each other stand as they work through these last two burpees.
Yeah, Morgan didn't get this position right next to her. Instead, decided to look away. I don't know if that's going to be a factor at all mentally. It does appear that Catherine's moving just slightly faster than Morgan. And Catherine second.
Catherine Fassbender under the 33-minute mark.
Wow.
Second place.
Also, a huge PR for her, yep. And now joining the exclusive group of sub-33 for women. Amazing effort today by Catherine.
And just a few burpees left for Morgan Schulz, last year's world champion, who will finish third place in this year's world championship.
Still a podium. I know she probably would have wanted to win today for sure, but a podium is just to be proud of as well.
Go, go, go!
Actually does her last few reps. Congrats to Morgan.
So there's your podium. Weeks first, Fassbender second, Schulz third, and now Katie Duke trying to solidify fourth. Probably looking the best out of any of the athletes we've seen on these burpees.
Yeah, Katie Duke's best time of the year is 34:54, and she is well ahead of that right now. Katie Duke's personal best, I believe, is also 34:54. I could be wrong, but she is absolutely flying, wanting that top 5, top 4 position. As there's a lot of women in the burpee pit right now. This is awesome. Tanya, a little flailing up, but she's locking out till. There we go. Katie Duke, 4th place with a new personal record. Every single lady setting a record right now.
Yeah, Katie Duke, I think, except for Morgan, was a little bit below her world championship time from last year, but Katie with about a 40-second PR. She's got the biggest PR so far of the top 4 athletes.
Wow, what a great performance. Here we go. Who's going to finish top 5? Oh, man, is it going to be an international presence? It sure is.
Tanya Thies comes in.
And then Munson right behind her. Wow, so 2 international athletes finishing 5th and 6th. And here comes Bridget Brown in 7th with Bree Schrader finishing in 8th.
This right here speaks to the depth of this field.
It does.
There was separation at the top. The podium kind of ended up pretty well ahead of everybody else, but really, really close pack. And Katie might have separated a little bit at the end, but 4 through 8, all within 35 seconds of each other, more or less. Very impressive. We talked about the European athletes who really only had competed against each other before this. They're able to come in, make the travel, a much more difficult trip than a lot of these athletes, especially someone like Bridget Brown, who's just down the street pretty much. To be able to come over, finish 5th or 6th, very impressive for them as well. Absolutely.
And Janelle Teal, 10th place. Another top 10 performance from her.
And another PR, I believe. Yeah, 35:50 was hers coming in, so about 15 seconds.
Yeah, I'm looking at all these ladies' times. I think they're all breaking their own personal records right now. So not Katie D'Ambrosio, unfortunately, who just finished across the line at 11th. So not the race that she wanted, but still, she is a new face of this sport. She's an amazing runner. And, she has the most memorable interview of the year by far, going, oh, yeah, but I just signed up. Who does that in the elite field? That's crazy.
Yeah, I think this was probably a new experience for her, at least racing in this format, given she pretty much ran away with that race in the second half and found herself in a bit of a fight here. And Michelle Navarro comes across. 12, solid time for her as well. Not quite a PR, but very close.
Absolutely.
Very close to her seed time from this year. So, even the back of this pack, this elite women's field, still putting on just solid performances all the way down.
Great performances.
With the world record on top.
Yeah, that was an amazing race from all the ladies. Just giving a show for everyone at home. That was awesome. That was Lauren Weeks. Wow. What more can you say? What more can you say? She does not have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Not that she really didn't have to earlier, but this is just another world championship that I'm sure, she wanted to add to the collection.
And what does she do when she breaks the world record? She goes back and cheers on Catherine and then Morgan as they finish second and third. You saw Lauren come over there, kind of crouching down and giving them final encouragement as they were both hurting pretty bad, working through their last few reps.
Not only the best in the sport, but one of the best in leadership as well, too. Her and her husband, I know, leading some coaching and some athletes. I mean, she is just exactly what you would want in the pedestal for what a number one athlete in our sport looks like. So it couldn't have happened to a better person. So,
absolutely. You see 4 of the athletes there kind of hanging out, talking. It doesn't look like they just were at max heart rate for 35 minutes. They're a lot more relaxed now that they finished and had a moment or two to settle down a little bit.
The ladies do it best at the finish line. The guys are usually just dead and laying down and maybe some high fives here and there. The ladies always have a powwow. And it's usually, I'm surprised there's only 4 right now as the screen's a little frozen, but usually the whole field sits there and talks a little bit, almost like, they're sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, apologize for the technical difficulties on screen. Jason Dupree here sitting to our right. I think he hopped up to maybe coordinate some interviews. He's back now. We'll have that camera situation sorted out here momentarily. But I think it was, in a lot of ways, Luke, a race that we expected to see, and we weren't exactly sure how it was going to play out. I think we thought Lauren had a good chance to take it. She showed right from the first 10 strides that she was on a mission, and she wasn't going to, she was going to run her race, do her thing, and not race with the pack per se. We saw that wire-to-wire win in a pretty good battle between second and third as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, she is the one female athlete that will always take it out hot at the beginning. It's just a matter of who wants to follow and who's ready to hurt a little bit as well. But I think a lot of these ladies knew that her pace is just on just another level at the moment, and they knew they would probably compromise their own runs in the process, so it was smart of them not to take it out as hot as maybe Lauren did. As speaking now, going over to the men's side of who may take it out hot, me and this gentleman actually just discussed this, and he said he's still debating. But Derek York is taking over into the top 15. He did qualify, and he wanted to compete in age group, but he was asked to move over because I believe
Isaac Sanderson.
That's right.
Unable
Isaac
to make
Sanderson.
it this weekend.
That's right.
So, yeah, Derek got bumped up into this field.
Yeah, I believe now this is a race where a few men will take it out hot. And I'm going to, even though I know that's just Derek's thing, and but I think it's going to be the Spaniards that do it. I think Aitor and Alphonse take it out hot at the beginning because they have not raced with this field yet, knowing where they are in position. And it's not like they're too far behind. I mean, 30-52, 30-56, they very well could break the 30-minute barrier running with this type of competition. But I do believe Alphonse and Aitor are the ones that take it out hot because they want to bring it over here to the Americans.
And here's a look at the split times here for the women's top 10. So, again, Lauren Weeks, 31:51, breaking her own world record by 7 seconds. And look at that difference on the run. 17:13, the run split time for Lauren Weeks, which would be a very strong, just flat 5K.
Yes, it would.
Let alone doing it in 500-meter intervals with a lot of work in between. And Catherine and Morgan,
Remarkable.
Really the difference in that race there pretty much was the run and a little bit of station work at the end, but Catherine Fossbender able to pull away from Morgan on the burpees, and Katie Duke as well, one of the strongest performances on the stations. But you look at that gap with, I believe 5 athletes between 34 minutes and 35 minutes with Stephanie Hillman at 35:02. So that's less than a minute separating 4 through 9.
Yep.
Again, the depth that was present in this field was really impressive.
Absolutely. And it didn't seem to appear that way in a few of the stations until you got to a station where most of them could clutter, such as the bike or the sled, which, I mean, honestly, we didn't see too much because we were watching Lauren, of course. But then there at the burpees, you realize they were a lot closer than we thought, or as it may appear. So
yeah, it's the one downside of, for good reason, focusing on Lauren, Catherine, and Morgan and how their race unfolded for the podium. But, I think at various points we saw, it's Katie and Bridget. They're 4 and 5, and they're well ahead of the rest of the field. But actually, it was Munsta and Tanya that were able to catch those two. While Katie pulled away a little bit, they caught up to Bridget, and you had 6 athletes in the burpee pit all at the same time, and it was Tanya and Munsta able to take 5th and 6th. So we didn't exactly see how it unfolded, but the outcome was a very bunched up pack there in the middle of that top 10.
It's great to see the international presence right now. So congratulations to all the ladies. Now our focus goes to the men. Xander, I'm going to throw you under the bus just right at the get-go, or should I say throw you into the fire of it. Who's your podium pick out of the men's list that we have in front of us?
I mean, it's hard to bet again. It's almost like you're taking chalk if you pick the top seed time. But Dylan Scott, with what he's done, in DEKA Fit, what he did running, 32 minutes 5 times in a row at the DEKA Fit Ultra.
Unbelievable.
The only athlete sub 30 here in this field, at least this year. So I think Dylan Scott takes it. I like Nick Ryker to get on the podium. It's similarly hard to pick between Nick and Greyson. They're definitely different athletes that have different strengths, and so I think they might be the ones content to let someone like Derek York go at the beginning. But I'll say Nick Ryker takes second with Greyson in third.
I like it. I like those picks. There's Jack Bauer, the stat man himself. Race brain. Derek York was the one that just followed shortly in the screen. Here we have Cole Walkington. All right, so this is a young man in our sport as well, too, that's up and coming, making a name for himself. That's cool. He's a dog. He's a dog. He likes to hurt. He goes into the pain cave. I think he takes it out hot with the rest of the group as well, too. And here's Joseph Cotto. He's an amazing runner. Cotto is an awesome runner. And Keith Hardwick, which I believe he is the only athlete in this field that triple crowned last year because he competed in the age group, but he dominated the age group of, I believe, 35, 39.
And here's the first of our 3 Europeans, all Spaniards, Paula Santa Marinas, as well as 2 of his countrymen in this field. Again, you mentioned it earlier, Luke. Maybe look for some of those Spanish athletes to be the ones to really mix things up and try and set the tone. Mostly competing against each other.
Right.
Now coming over here and taking on the Americans.
There is Itor and Alphonse. And before that was Glenn Race. Can never count out Glenn. Glenn's had an awesome DEKA Fit year so far. And much like Mark Polzin as well, too. He's had an awesome year. 2 of the maybe older athletes, but showcasing their abilities that they can compete at with anybody at any age.
Yeah, we didn't see Glenn come out with the cane this time. Yeah. He's done that in the past. Letting everyone know that he's been around the game for a while.
Maybe he's got his walker on standby after Station 7.
There's David Magida, a guy who's had success
along
in this event.
Yeah.
Along with Colin Steefer. But David Magida, someone who's, had to battle through injury and just not the type of training that he wants for the past year or two.
Right.
But if he's healthy and able on race day, then you know that he's someone that's always going to mix it up.
Absolutely.
Very, very smart racer in terms of knowing his capacity and really kind of bringing it down toward the end of the race. And there's look at Greyson Kilgore, one of the favorites coming in, someone who's really improved over the course of this year, comes in with a 30 flat PR and seed time.
Yeah, David Magida, speaking of which, and of course, here comes Dylan Scott, the top seed and the favorite to win this year. Magida will not. I'd rather place my bet that of someone who does not take it out hot the first lap. That's Magida. He plays behind, and then he always finds a way at the end. So never count out Magida. But for my top 3 picks, I picked it last year, Dylan Scott. I'm picking it again this year. I think Dylan Scott wins. I think Nick Ryker is getting second this year right behind. And then for third place, it's going to be a battle between Kilgore and Magida and Steefer. Oh, man, I want to throw a Spaniard in there. I really do. I think Alphonse makes a name for himself today.
Well, here we go. Alphonse within a minute in terms of seed time of all of those other podium contenders outside of Dylan Scott. So here we go. The men's race is underway, and we'll find out very quickly what the strategy is going to be for these athletes from the start.
Now, I do believe the clock started about 2-3 seconds before, but so we'll just keep that in mind if maybe a world record is on showcase today at all. Which is another question. Do you think a world record gets broken today? I believe it's 28-28 held by Rylan, who, of course, is not competing. And lastly, that we will crown a new DEKA Fit World Champion men. We don't have Rich Ryan in this field, and we don't have Rylan, who are the only two that can go for a second chance at a crown, right? But so we will have a new champion, which is always exciting.
Absolutely, and Dylan Scott, looking for his first DEKA Fit podium, was fourth last year,
Right.
and it's clearly stepped up his game and made noise on the ultra space as well. So we're getting a look now, sort of the back of this field.
It looks like Derek York is out front. I think I see the white shirt going. If anyone knows who Derek York is, that is definitely his MO. And it appears that maybe the Spaniards are up there as well, too. I figured as much. Alphonse, Aitor, maybe even Pau, they're just so excited to be over here competing with what we could argue to say is the best in the sport. So I know their excitement is probably a little bit overwhelming, which I think ultimately may cost them. Yep, as you can see, they're right there. I knew it. And Nick Ryker right behind as well, too. So Nick decided to go with that front field. I would love to see Nick as a champ as well, too. But does Dylan Scott get his world championship? Dylan Scott is someone who is more than capable of joining Lauren Weeks as a High Rocks world champ and a DEKA Fit world champ. Nick Ryker, of course, just doesn't compete in High Rocks. But Dylan Scott is someone who has that potential, and he's still so young in the sport.
Yeah, and the fact that Dylan wasn't at the front of this pack, that's no issue and not unexpected at all. He
not, led it last year.
He's not someone with top-end speed, but he's someone that probably has the best staying power in the sport. And so, with where he's at, he's going to be comfortable. And David Magida maybe sticking his nose in it a little bit more than we thought right from the beginning. You see Derek York still out in front. So Pau Marinas, you mentioned, coming in. There was a chance the Spaniards would try and make some noise early. That's what we've seen with Pau and Alphonse in the top 5, although Greyson has passed Alphonse. Yeah, Cole Walkington in 4th place as well.
Yeah, this is exciting. Nick Ryker right up front. It looks like Nick now is the one who really wants to push the pace today as far as our podium picks. I think Nick is fit. I will never bet against this man of ever making a DEKA Fit podium again. He's Mr. DEKA. He always will have that title, in my opinion.
Yeah, Nick is someone who knows sort of what his body can handle in training. I think he's been more consistent, able to train consistently more this year than the past couple since, so some of the issues that sidelined with a little bit back in 2021. And so with that training and knowing his limits and what, making the most out of the time available to him, he's fit and ready, and we're seeing that here.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Derek York still ahead of the pack, which I'm not surprised. Of course, he led in there. He should be able – I would love to see Derek hold on. He was telling me, of course, his fitness just isn't where it's at right now, where he would like it to be. Keep in mind, Derek York is the inaugural DEKA Fit winner and world record holder at one point. So, I mean, this man very much has the potential of mixing up the field, battling position. Maybe he doesn't get a podium today, but never count Derek out, ever.
So it's Derek, Nick, and Pau, 1, 2, 3, all very close together. And you see right there, sort of in the mid-pack, next to each other, Dylan Scott and David Magida. So they're podium contenders, very experienced athletes, staying within themselves, at least here early on.
Now, I think this is where Dylan decides to make a move a little bit more. Hatless Dylan, should I mention. This is a new bang look that he's got going on. I kind of like it. Hatless. So I don't think a world record will be broken today, but I do think if you want podium, you're going to have to go sub 30. I think sub 30 now is, when I did my stats the other night, I think sub 30 has only been broken 17 times. 5 of those being from Ryan Kent himself, which is remarkable. Dylan Scott, I think, has done them twice, which he's done it twice this year. And as you mentioned before, when he won the DEKA Fit Ultra, which, mind you, it's not much, but I did hold the world record for about 2 hours before this man decided to just absolutely obliterate my age group win at that Ultra. But the way he was able to maintain 32s for every single round of 5 rounds is just an engine like no other. And so I know he is definitely capable of going sub 30 again today. It's just a matter of who maybe wants to get closer to that maybe 20, low 29, high 28 barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, with the world record being 28-28, 3 of the athletes in this field have gone sub 30, but none of them have gone below 29-30. So that's a pretty big gap.
Right.
And, you know, with some of the athletes that have set the fastest times in the last 2 or 3 years are not here. And now you have this group that are approaching or have gone beyond the 30-minute barrier, but maybe not quite at this point at that 28-minute level. But you never know. We just saw world record for Lauren Weeks. There's more competition at the front of this field in terms of just number of athletes with each other, and that could lead to faster times as this race unfolds. Also could lead to athletes cracking. I think the more athletes that are together going into the bike, the higher likelihood that someone is going to fall off. We just don't know who that'll be.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think it's the Spaniards. I think just because they're just not used to this pace yet. They're just not. You know, their times coming in are on the high end of 30. They don't know what a sub 30 feels like. Now, granted, maybe they just didn't have the potential of pushing themselves to a sub 30, but they're getting a taste of it today because these men are definitely going to go sub 30. And Nick Ryker has come to make a statement today, along with, it appears,
Derek and Dylan, I believe, are.
No, it's not Derek. Oh, man, I'm not sure who that gentleman is from behind. Oh, it is Derek. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. Maybe another gentleman from an age group race, actually. Unless it's iTour. There's Jack Bauer right there. Yeah, Nick Ryker is pushing the pace early. I think this was his strategy coming into it this year, knowing that he's right there now. And I mean, he said it last year as far as making podium. He couldn't have asked for a better race, better positioning, this and that. I think now Nick can only go up from there. He has to have a world title in his name. It's world title or bust for Nick Ryker this year.
So there's Nick Ryker, green shorts, front and center.
Yeah, I believe that's iTour right there.
So you've got Dylan and iTour.
Or Alphonse.
And then
I'm going to get the two mixed up.
Alphonse is in the blue top.
Okay, yeah.
And then Pau is the shorter athlete who's doing actual box jumps right now.
That's amazing.
Now you've got pretty much the entire field here in fighting for space.
It is a bit of a disadvantage to come into this one a little bit last because you got to not only go to the last box in the far back row, but also bob and weave between these gentlemen that are doing box overs. All right, so Colin Stiefer seemed to have made a move right behind Greyson. Nick and Dylan still up front. So time-wise, as far as splits, not too much of a difference. As you can tell, iTour a little bit slower. Maybe taking out hot at the beginning it will end up costing, I believe. Maybe not, though. There goes Jack finishing it out.
So we expected Derek York to take it out hot. He did, and that kind of almost helped serve as a rabbit for some of these other athletes, kind of getting them out hot. You saw Nick. He was in third or fourth place on that first run, comfortable with where he was. Certainly someone who comes in with a race plan, and it's paying off right now as he finds himself in first place.
Yeah, these gentlemen are all fast 5K and below runners. I mean, even up to 10K as well, too. But from a mile standpoint, Nick Ryker is one of the fastest mile runners, I believe, in our sport. His fast twitch muscle fibers are just unlike anything other, and DEKA Fit is a great arena to showcase that ability as well.
And you saw David Magida and now Glenn Race coming through. I believe they're around 11th and 12th.
Magida will make his move towards the farmer carry bike end. You will think, oh, Magida 8th, 9th spot. Then all of a sudden you will see him battling for 4th and 3rd out of nowhere. I'm going to call him Batman. Just stays in the dark and appears when he needs to make a move. All right, so Dylan made a move.
Yep, speaking of making a move, we've got 1-2 pretty much in together. Dylan Scott there in the tan shorts, Nick Ryker in the green shorts in the background.
Dylan seems to be moving a little bit quicker, so I think Dylan's going to have this lead coming out. Battle between Colin and Greyson. And iTour and Cole and
Pau as well.
Pau, okay.
So yeah, you've got two of the Spaniards, and now Joseph Cotto and Alphonse
Yep.
right behind them. So, yeah, the
Keith
top 10
Hardwick,
are,
Derek.
again,
Wow.
4 through 10 are all pretty
Yep.
close together, maybe 3 through 10, all very close together. Right now, we do have a tiny bit of separation between 1, 2, and the rest of this field.
I do think this meant, look at Keith, how he does the bubbles technique. I mean, he's so strong. And I believe the rule is as long as the shoulder blades come off, it does count. There goes Greyson. I do think the gentlemen are going to be a little bit more close packed compared to the women's race that we saw. I think it is definitely the podium contention is going to come down to the bike and after the bike. I don't think it's determined before that. I really don't.
Lauren Weeks was 5 steps ahead of this field by the time they got to the first turn.
Right.
We've already seen 3 lead changes in this men's race. Derek York took out the first run. Nick Ryker led for a couple of stations, and now Dylan Scott has made a little bit of a move as well. So in 4 zones that we've completed, 3 different leaders to this point in the race. And yes, Dylan's now got a little bit of a gap, but there's still a long way to go here.
Absolutely.
So Dylan Scott 1, Nick Ryker 2. I believe that was Greyson Kilgore 3, who was coming around the corner right before the camera switched over to Jack Bauer. There is Greyson, and right now looks like in 3rd place.
Yeah, Greyson's fitness has really taken off lately. I mean, he came into the sport as a pretty respectable time and competitor as well, but now he's a podium threat in every race that he goes to. I think recently he just got second at High Rocks right behind Hunter at Anaheim, right? So he is someone to put on the radar.
And you saw Keith Hardwick there about 10 seconds ago really pushing to try and catch up to the pack in front of him. You have that 4 through 7 or 8 are all very close together within a few seconds. Keith is kind of hanging on the back of that. Someone who's trying to, outperform his 11th place seed time.
Dylan coming into the skier. I think Dylan now is in full control, even though I know Nick Ryker's right there, but he's right there. Okay. Maybe not in full control, but Dylan, I think he's used to this. He's a great front runner when he knows he may have the race won. So I'm hoping Dylan really just holds this on for him to get a potential for his world championship. I think Nick and Dylan are going to podium this race. It's just a matter of who's going to be on top.
And you've got Greyson Kilgore and Colin Steefer. They're 3-4, but right behind Colin is a pack. You've got Cole, you've got Itor, you've got Powell, and not too far behind them was Alphonse, and I believe Keith Hardwick and Joseph Cotto as well. So, close to 10 athletes again, all on the skier already. We've got, sub 2-minute pace being skied right now. Just, casual.
Casual. I think this is I think right now, considering where they are in positioning, this is not a smart station to blow yourself up on and make a move. Keep it casual, keep it conservative for the most part, like the 150, 155. I think that's smart, definitely for the men, because I want to say Dylan probably is not pulling that much faster. And save yourself for the potential of the bike, which will make or break the race for sure. Unless, of course, you're now someone who's maybe in 5th or 6th coming in. This could be a station where maybe you light a match a little bit to make a move.
So Dylan Scott and Nick Ryker are definitely in the second half of this ski. Pretty much the entire men's field in there right now.
Wow, 146, okay. Yeah, he's pushing the pace a bit. But then again, that this could very well be his High Rocks pace as well, too.
So Dylan Scott is out at about 13:54. Nick Ryker still off screen, finishing up. So Dylan trying to extend his lead here a little bit. We didn't get a great look at what he was skiing for a lot of it, but certainly
definitely
made a bit of a move if we see those split times.
All right, so Dylan wanted some separation after that station, and he definitely got it. So now it's a matter of how strong this, of course, split of this run's going to be to keep that separation, which Dylan's looking great right now.
And now Greyson is closer to Nick than Nick is to Dylan. So all of a sudden 2 and 3, and Greyson, a stronger athlete, someone who maybe is a candidate to make a move on the bike for sure.
Absolutely.
Trying to put himself in position, but Colin Steefer is right there, not too far behind as well.
Yeah, look at that skier split. Yeah, Dylan came in wanting to push the pace on Station 5, and that's what he did. And it looks like Greyson also pushed it a bit, and Colin Steefer, which stronger athletes, which totally makes sense. I'm sure a 154 is nothing for them. They're probably pushing a 150 more likely with transition time involved. But
And it's funny with a skier because it's hard to tell sometimes. You don't necessarily know just by looking how hard someone is pushing compared to something like a bike where you can really see it in their motion in their face. So it's almost a bit of a surprise that, that Dylan was about 10 seconds faster skiing than Nick, but he's using that. And he's certainly still running smooth. Again, if there's an athlete in this field who knows the exact line that he can push and sit at, it's Dylan Scott. And that's at least, as we approach the halfway point of this race, what we're seeing.
For sure. Yeah, it was Dylan's race to lose last year. It really was, because he wanted to go out early. He said, again, in the interview post, he said he was happy with his performance and everything, of course. But Dylan's at the point in his career now in fitness racing where a podium isn't necessarily what he wants. I mean, of course, everyone wants to win, but he needs to solidify these wins. And a world championship underneath his belt is going to just better argue his case in any future race that he does.
There's Nick Ryker, who just picked up the dumbbells for the farmer's carry. So Dylan continuing to maintain this lead as he's coming around the final turn or two of this zone. Dylan Scott setting the dumbbells down there at the inset screen. He's out at 16:20 as Nick Ryker now still working his way through. So, Dylan has opened and solidified this gap at this point.
He really has, Now I can say this is Dylan's race to lose at this point. Where do you push the pace? Where do you back off just a bit just to conserve yourself? He's going into the bike, so I guarantee he's pushing the pace on this run because he's probably not as strong on the bike as maybe some of the other gentlemen, of course.
And now we got to look there at Colin Steefer coming up on Greyson Kilgore.
Yep.
So Greyson, we had said, has been making a move on Nick, but all of a sudden Colin is right there in fourth place.
Right there. Yep. All right, so the gentleman that we pretty much were talking about in podium, and Derek's still right there. I love it. Derek thought maybe he'd fall off a little bit, maybe shorter in. There's I-Tour going out. Everyone's still a little bundled.
Oop, almost a little trip there from Cole, but he seems all right. Joseph Cotto out behind him. There's Greyson Kilgore currently in third place on your inset screen as we see sort of the back part of this elite field working their way through the farmer's carry on the main screen. I can see David Magida there moving well. Alphonse behind him.
All right, I'm excited to see who does what here at Station 7. Do we see a Bubbles 12-second effort from anybody?
It's hard to do when you've already been working for close to 20 minutes because Bubbles usually is taking a nap and then he wakes up and does the 12 seconds. But
and that would probably be the dumbest thing you could possibly do, definitely if you're contending for a podium spot.
We'll see that later on.
Yes, we will, which I'm beyond excited. And maybe potentially competing next to it, the men's elite team. I might be a bit scared.
So here we go. Dylan Scott on the air bike. This is Zone 7, 25 painful calories as he's 18 minutes into this race, currently holding a solid lead. As off screen, he's kind of lost sight of Nick Ryker for the moment, but he should be in soon. Greyson Kilgore and Colin Steefer, you see now in set third and fourth, still coming around, getting their way into the zone.
I think this is where Colin and Greyson really push each other right here to really try to catch up to Nick. Who wants that third spot? I think Dylan's still in pretty solid position. I mean, his runs just look phenomenal right now. I mean, he doesn't look like he's compromised by any means. But does Nick make a move right here to try to catch? It looks like Dylan's moving pretty solid on the bike, though.
Yeah, we didn't see Nick come in, but as Greyson was coming in, you could see Nick kind of in the middle of the zone, already working hard. And there it is. You can see the difference right there. With Dylan Scott under control and Greyson Kilgore trying to make a move right now.
Oh, this is exciting. Greyson knows. Greyson knows this is where he's going to have to do it.
Greyson Kilgore burning the ships, knowing, hey, if I'm going to make a podium position, it's going to happen right now.
Absolutely.
Dylan is out. Glenn is in, taking his spot. But there's Greyson Kilgore going to work. I'll be surprised if someone has a faster bike split than him, but we'll see when those come up on the clock. Nick Ryker is still on the bike, so that's something to keep an eye on. Nick there in the green shorts in the middle of the other athletes with Greyson.
Man, Dylan has a solid lead right now, yeah. All right, so Nick is out.
Greyson's out as well.
Wow.
So Greyson has moved, I believe, into second place.
Yeah. Solid bike time. And Greyson looks like he's running solid too. Yeah, look at that. That right there. And Colin not too far behind Nick as well, too, I believe. Now the question is Greyson in second or is Ryker in second? I guess we'll see here in a bit.
I think it is Greyson. I mean, that's a 15-second gap between Greyson and Nick on the bike. We don't see Nick right now, but it did look like Greyson, as Nick was leaving, looked like Greyson's seat was empty.
Man, Greyson knew he had to make a move right there, and he did. He lit a match, but let's just see if it doesn't compromise him too much when it comes down to the burpees. Yes, he was locking in. Yes, he was. All the other, he's the only one that's going sub-minute. And Colin Stiefer as well, about minute 13. So maybe not as fast as maybe we anticipated for Colin. But as you can tell, the Spaniard Aitor 138, Powell 150, it has caught up to him at this point. It is very apparent that they are blown up at the moment because I'm sure they could do the bike much faster than that if maybe they didn't start out as hot as they did. But again, this is all learning curves. This is now finally a true world championship, and I'm glad they were a part of this to see and get a taste of what we do over here in North America.
And you see that sort of that separation in your top 4 times versus everyone else.
Right.
Top 4, obviously Greyson, the standout, 52 seconds. But the other 3 athletes, Colin, Nick, and Dylan, all sub 115.
Right.
But nobody else is under 130.
Right.
And so there's that separation. Even though that pack of 5 through 9 were all in there together, they're not able to, at least in this race, step up to the level of the top 4. And so that's how a gap is going to form. And really, I think Colin Stiefer, even though he's in 4th place right now, has really solidified that gap. Although, guess who? David Makita is coming up behind Colin off screen. So
I'm not surprised.
He's made the move. The question is, did David leave it too late to try and get a podium position?
All right, so as you can tell, Nick, it looks like he is moving with some sense of urgency, knowing that Greyson is now in second. Dylan, of course, solidifying his lead just even more. Now, here's the question. Does Nick and Greyson feed off each other enough to where they can maybe make a potential push at Dylan, or does Dylan just have too much of a lead on them? And I honestly think he just has too much of a lead on him.
I think for an athlete like Dylan Scott, having gotten through the bike and, again, really just able to ride that line the rest of this race, I think he might have too much of a lead in either of these two. Looks like, neither of them seem to be moving faster than they need to right now. So I think Greyson and Nick are just kind of getting through this, seeing where they're at in relation to each other, and then just being prepared for another 1,000 meters of running. They are out
at the same time.
At the exact same time. So here we go. Second and
go.
third. And Nick Ryker,
this is a race.
Definitely you would consider to be the stronger runner, is a couple of steps ahead, but not too much right now.
Yeah, they're right there. So it seemed like Greyson either backed off a bit or maybe it cost him a little bit too much of the bike, but he had to play that match right there. He had to, or else if he would have done a 130, I mean, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. All right. Who wants it more on this sled, fellas? It's going to be a fun battle to watch right here.
Greyson Kilgore and Nick Ryker, stride for stride. They come out of the zone together. Nick hopped in front. Now Greyson's 2 steps in front of him, but they are basically together. And there's the race leader, Dylan Scott.
Dylan has all the momentum right now, and I'm sure all the adrenaline and the high, knowing that he has a very secure lead, I should say. But at the same time, he knows he can't let off the gas too much. But the only thing that honestly would cost Dylan is if he just made a stupid mistake on anything, such as maybe not crossing the lines on the sled and pulling beforehand, or not coming to full extension on the burpees. He's not the strongest on the burpees. He usually kind of does the technique as well, but he does go full extension. So that's the only thing that I think could cost Dylan this world title. But it wouldn't be his capability by any means. He has a solidified lead.
Yeah, this may be a situation like we saw in the women's race about a half hour ago, where Lauren had a slower split time on the sleds than either Catherine or Morgan because she was all alone.
Right.
We might see Greyson and Nick push each other to faster sled time, but right now, Dylan, who's well into his second length, has not quite as big of a lead as Lauren did, but he just finished rep 2 as Nick and Greyson are starting their first one. So he's still got about a 45-second lead on these two.
Absolutely. Yeah, if I was Dylan, I would back off just a bit as far as maybe just blowing up the hamstrings or quads, if that even happens to him. Just to know that he could push the pace on this last run, which he is just as fast, if not faster, than a lot of these athletes. And then, of course, just if he has a 10-plus burpee lead, he for sure has the win, for sure.
Greyson Kilgore, a sled nose ahead of Nick Ryker right now in second place. And don't count out Colin Steefer.
No,
He's about
not
a
at all.
length behind Nick and Greyson, but Colin is working. You see him in the gray shorts pushing forward as Greyson pulls back.
Oh, look at this, Greyson and Nick. And there's Keith Hardwick trying to make a claim in the top 5. And then Joseph Cotto right there. And Itor on the far end, along with Powell, I believe.
Yeah, a few minutes ago, we noticed David Magida was a little bit behind Colin. I think he was a lap down. It's hard to tell sometimes exactly where they are, but I saw David come in a little bit later into the last station. So, yeah, Colin right now trying to work his way back to the podium, but he's got competitors behind him as well. So Dylan is out. On to his last run.
Dylan should be a full lap ahead by the time, because I believe he's 2 full lengths ahead. Unless Nick and Greyson have been really selling it right here, I don't think they're done. I think this is Grayson's got one more. Greyson is a push ahead of Nick right now, though. Nick's going to have to light a match for this last run. He's going to have to.
Grayson's about there.
There we go.
Dylan Scott working through his final run. Greyson Kilgore out in second place. What does Nick Ryker have left?
Yep.
Does he have one more match to burn on this last run in 20 burpees?
Here goes Nick.
We're going to find out right now. Nick Ryker in third place. He's not on his last run as well.
Nick definitely has that dog in him. He is someone that will just collapse and give it everything he has. Dylan just looking smooth right now. One of the taller athletes, so his running form is phenomenal. Not that much slower.
Yeah, we didn't see exactly what we saw in the women's race where, yes, Greyson did make a move on Nick, but Dylan able to be in there, right into the middle of all of them.
Yes, Nick Ryker is very strong. Yes, he is. I'm liking these names of pale bodies.
There's a look at Jack Bauer, Alphonse de Ruiz as well. Tom Marinas in the background. I see Itor as well. So, again, this entire field now on the sled push and pull. Dylan Scott into the burpees.
This is awesome. He needed this win. Dylan is one of those guys where I think it's important that he likes winning. Some people can argue that they just rather win than, and they're okay with the losses. But, man, Dylan, this is something he needs for his resume. Congrats to Dylan Scott. And unless for whatever reason a freak accident occurs right now, he is going to be our 2024 men's DEKA Fit champion.
I believe he's right around burpee 10 right now. So he's got a 10 or 11 burpee lead on Greyson. And Dylan Scott has a minute left. Pretty good chance he sets a PR en route to this World Championship, assuming he finishes it off. Greyson Kilgore now on to his burpees as well. Nick Ryker in behind him.
Grayson's about 5 burpees ahead of Nick. Oh, man. That 4 to 6 range is rough to make time up. It really is.
And it looks at least that Greyson is moving a little bit better than Nick on these burpees as well.
Grayson's looking strong.
Now the question is, will Colin Steefer catch Nick Ryker? I can see Colin there on the right-hand side.
Wow.
So Dylan Scott is your
congrats.
2024 DEKA Fit Men's Elite World Champion. About a 29.08,
awesome.
25-second PR for him. That elusive, not only does he get on the DEKA Fit World podium, but he takes the whole thing with his fastest time ever. Coming close to that 29-minute barrier. And here we go, podium battle. We've got our 2, 3, and 4 all on burpees, all toward the second half of their burpees. Who is it going to be?
Greyson Kilgore. All right, second place.
Greyson Kilgore, sub-30 by a margin.
Yeah, he's
finishes
killing it right
second
now.
place. Nick Ryker has moved his way off of the mat as he's trying to work his way through these final few reps.
You know what's scary about Greyson is that he's just not even close to his peak form right now. I think next year Greyson is going to be a world champ threat. And Nick getting third place again this year. Maybe not the position, of course, that he wanted, but still a podium nonetheless. That man just collects podiums at this point. He really does.
Right about 30 flat for Nick Ryker. And Colin Stiefer just about 10 seconds behind him. So a strong race from Colin, who really had to work his way back into the field and ends up just 10 or 12 seconds off the podium in fourth place. And now we've got the back half of this top 10 with Cole, with Joseph Cotto, with Aitor, and some other athletes, Keith as well.
Oh, this is nuts. This is awesome, though.
And that says it all right there. You see Colin on his back, Nick on hands and knees, Greyson kind of down on one knee as well. Dylan is probably just up ready for another lap.
Absolutely.
Given what he's done
you know, maybe I should
format.
ask him to be my teammate because I know he's going to have the energy to do it. Oh, Keith Hardwick. Well, I'm assuming Colin's already passed at fourth, right? So
yeah, Colin was about 10 seconds behind Nick.
Keith Hardwick getting fifth place, coming in on the 11th seed. And there's Aitor, our first international athlete, crossing in sixth. Man, congrats to Keith. Wow, that's phenomenal.
Keith Hardwick, the 11th seed coming in, had not gone under 31 minutes and comes pretty close, if not setting his PR and outperforming his seed time. Cole Walkington now also pretty strongly outperforming the time that he came in as the 13th seed.
Wow, these gentlemen showed up today. And there goes Powell, another international athlete. The battle between Joseph Glenn and Jack Bauer at the moment. Three gentlemen we see quite often in the DEKA Fit arena. While on the small screen you see Mark Polzine and Alphonse going back and forth. Derek York casually walking up to his ram roller.
And you can see Dylan cheering on Jack Bauer there as Jack works his way through his final few reps. Alphonse and Derek.
All still solid times, slower times than they're used to. I think mainly because obviously they took it out too hot at the beginning, but I totally expected that to happen. I think they knew that was going to happen. And a lot of times too, when you're on this type of level of competition, or if you're just in the spotlight, why not? I mean, you never know, and you never know if maybe you might feel good and get a second win. You never know. And if you know someone like Dylan Scott, Greyson Kilgore, or Nick Ryker are going to be at that same time regardless, you have to take it out at that time. You just have to if you want to be a podium threat.
Yeah, if you're coming in as someone in the back half of this 15-person field, you're going to have to take a risk.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it'll pay off. Sometimes, you crack a little bit and end up fading a bit and not maybe performing up to the standard that you were hoping for.
Right.
But still just good work for all these guys to get through it. As Dylan Scott, as we saw with Lauren Weeks, as someone who's going to stick around and give encouragement to the other athletes in this field.
It's awesome. Good leadership right there. What do you think this says for Dylan Scott's career right here? I mean, he's still so young. The chances of him winning more championships, of course, is very likable. It could very well happen again next year. Like I mentioned, he's very capable of winning a High Rocks World title as well, too, when he's on his best race. If the DEKA Ultra happens to have a world championship next year,
he instantly becomes the odds-on favorite, absolutely, until proven otherwise.
100%. I mean, I don't think anyone would come near him. So, I mean, what does this solidify? Is he one of the greatest of all time? Does he make his case for Mount Rushmore with this win? Or does he still just have maybe a couple races to prove?
I mean, I think this says a lot because, Dylan is known as a grinder, right? He puts in a huge amount of volume in training. Again, maybe he doesn't have the high end in terms of just pure speed. So you would think that maybe DEKA Fit isn't going to be his strongest event. For him to come out and do what he did in this field,
very true.
I think, it puts him up there for sure. He's someone who's been in the mix previously, 7th in 2022, 4th last year. He's also competed twice in the DEKA Mile World Championship. And so for him to just make that leap this year, with a previous podium finisher in Nick Ryker and someone who's really come on and made tremendous improvement in Greyson Kilgore.
Absolutely.
For Dylan to not only beat those guys but put in a decent gap on them, I think shows the leap that he's taken. And, you almost wish you could see this version of Dylan in the same race as a Rich Ryan and Ryan Kent 2 years ago, because what they did, and Ryland as well, of course, with the fastest time. I'd love to see Dylan, obviously they've all gone toe-to-toe in High Rocks a lot.
Right.
It would be great to see this form of Dylan racing those guys in this format, because what he's done is impressive, and it just shows the growth that he's had in the sport in the last 2 years.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think when you see the best version of Dylan, which we saw today, it's hard to argue that he is not a Hall of Famer in our sport by any means. I mean, so congrats to Dylan for winning his first world title. Exciting stuff. Exciting stuff.
But talking about the guy on the screen right there, Greyson Kilgore came in 30 flat, and he went about 20 seconds under that here.
I think we're getting ready for some interviews, which we're going to get Dylan Scott here in a second. Speaking of Hall of Famers, there's Yancey Colt right there with the staff shirt on, the creator of DEKA. All right, Dylan's going to come back in a second. So we can just kind of chat, I guess, in the meantime.
Yeah, again, there's Yancey, the guy who took an event that was in his brain and made it happen here, and we've seen just the growth of DEKA Fit over the last couple of years. It's been great to see, again, the expansion internationally, and this does feel much more like a world championship than maybe previous years, with Europeans not only coming over competing, but getting in the top 10 on both the men's and women's side. So that was great to see, and this has been a phenomenal race so far. There's a look at Jack Bauer and, of course, VJ Jones on the media side.
Look at the two greats on the left side, VJ Jones and Ryland Shadegg, your last year's DEKA Fit world champ. He didn't race any races, unfortunately, qualify this year, but he is doing the mile and the strong, which I'm excited to see him perform in, because it seems like his fitness is through the roof right now, coming off his medical conditions and stuff that he's been dealing with all season. But you would think, based off his performances in High Rocks recently, that has not been the case. So,
yeah, Ryland's someone who's been pretty open about just not being able to train the way that he wants and just not sure what his body's going to give him on a given day. But we've seen great results, and he's, as he's done over the last 2 or 3 years since he's really came into this sport, he's going to stick his nose in any kind of event. He's another one of those athletes like Lauren Weeks, like we've seen someone like Chris Rogloski in various arenas. They're not afraid, even if they're having success in one type of race, they're going to come do something else and get it done. So great to see Ryland here in the building,
up,
even if we didn't see him in this race.
All right, let's do it. All right, we got Nick Ryker. Here you go, boss.
What's up, boys?
What's up, man?
What's up?
Long time no see. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, just did a little race. Ran in circles with my friends.
Yeah, no big deal. Well, Nick, I'll go ahead and start. Third place today.
Yeah.
Third place last year as well, too. Are we happy with the podium position? Or, of course, obviously everyone wants to win.
Yeah.
But walk us through it.
I mean, I went for the win. Dylan Scott is just an absolute monster.
Sure.
And, like I said, I want to win this race. And to beat him, I have to go out hard to break him.
And you were.
And I have to have a lead going into the ski by like 10 seconds, because he's going to ski low 140s, and I know I can't do that in a race. And damn, I went for it. I went for it, and I'm just so proud of my effort there at the end. Greyson's an absolute monster. Connor Seifer's an absolute monster, and I was in between those two there at the end.
Right.
And I just had to dig deep, and I did it. And I wish I would have got better than I did last year, but I know I gave everything I had. I'm super busy teaching and coaching. I'm coaching 3 sports in my school. And I just love my students, and I'm just so happy about today. So, yeah, I went for the win, and I came up just a little short, but that's all I can add. I mean, I gave it every single thing I had.
Yeah.
So I'm super proud of myself.
We were discussing that, with some of the gentlemen, of what type of pace you're capable of and the times that all these top athletes can perform.
Yeah.
You have to light a match somewhere at some point to be able to win this race or podium or even get a potential personal record as well. And that's what we were talking about with the Spaniards that came in. I knew they were going to go out hot early as well, too.
I was really worried about them because we know nothing about
absolutely.
them.
They're wild cards.
Their courses are a little different, and they're running pretty good times on these different courses. So you're like, shoot, I don't know how good they are. And I was sort of worried about them, but, I mean, kudos for them to coming all the way across from the Atlantic Ocean and
Yeah.
racing today. Like, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So we knew, athletes had to light a match somewhere,
Right.
and it appeared that you wanted to do that early, and you wanted to do this because you did have a lead there for a while as well too. So, I mean, were you confident in that lead, knowing going in, like you said, to the skier as well too? Did you think after that there was no way I'm going to catch Dylan, or did you have it in the back of your mind?
Yeah, there was no way, because I looked over and he's going like sub 140 on the ski, and I'm barely hanging on to 150, and he had a lead going into it, and he's not a guy he's not going to get slower.
Sure.
Like, he's going to pace himself well. He's not going to blow up. He's an absolute monster. So it was like I thought I could hold off Greyson, but he put a move on the bike, and last year I put a big move on the bike, and then absolutely blew me up. So I was like, if I do that, I might end up in 6th.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Just to hang on, and then I gave it every single thing I had on the on the sled against him, and then he's just a beast.
Yeah.
And, I'm super pumped.
Yeah, you probably couldn't see it because I think you were right in the center of the zone. He went to the right. Just us looking, we could tell that Greyson was putting in a move on the bike, and I think in the back of your mind, were you maybe expecting, all right, he might close the gap here, because you guys came out pretty close together, and then even through the dead balls, were pretty much stride for stride. So how does your mindset change? It's like you went from trying to hang on with Dylan, to all of a sudden now someone who has been in the race, but he's right there with you with 2 runs left.
When he passed me on the bike, I was like, I think I can outrun him still. Like, it was like he was only a couple feet ahead of me, or few meters ahead of me. So I was like, I still got him. And honestly, the ball over the yoke and pass has been my best station. Like, I've made some big moves there, and I came out of there ahead of him. And so I really did think I thought I had him, and I just didn't. He had it today, and I didn't. So it was. But God, what awesome! How awesome was that? It was just awesome race.
Absolutely.
So awesome.
You gave us an amazing race,
I know,
man. Absolutely.
Like, my middle schoolers give me so much motivation. It was actually funny. Like, I was telling my kids about this race. I was like, I had to qualify. Like, only 15 people in the world qualified, and I had a girl go, "And you qualified, Mr. Ryker?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty good." And so they're watching. They give me so much motivation. I love them.
Pretty
all,
good, man.
Awesome.
You are a first ballot Hall of Famer, Nick. I mean, I told Xander before this, I am not, and I said it last year as well too at the World Championship, I'm never betting against you to not ever make a podium ever again based off what you're capable of. And I mean, the only thing up that still needs to be claimed is the World Championship.
Right.
And of course, you can get that very, very much next year, and you're one of the favorites always in every race you show up to, man. Amazing performance today.
Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for putting this on. And,
of course.
I got a basketball game tomorrow morning, so I can't
love
stay
it.
around.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I got to get out of here as well, though. So I appreciate you all for putting this on, and so my family can see it all over. So appreciate you guys.
Of course, man. Nick,
Absolutely.
congratulations, bud.
Congratulations. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
Nick, one of the all-time greats right there. All
right,
right,
like
Greyson.
we're working our way up the podium here.
Yes. This is what Dylan gets for leaving. We get to talk to the other gentleman.
Oh, now he's back.
Yeah, make sure your hair looks good. There you go. What's that? Yeah. All right, Greyson Kilgore. Congratulations, second place.
Yes, sir.
The World Championships. I would want to ask you, I guess, this is your first World Championship bout of any capacity, or just?
No, first World Championship in the DEKA Fit.
Okay.
Raced the mile and teams mile in strong last year.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, so team-based. So individual-wise, this is your first one.
My first fit, yeah.
Okay, all right, great. And are we happy with second place?
Couldn't be happier.
All right,
it was fantastic. Fastest I've ever done this race. This is my third attempt at the DEKA Fit.
Okay.
I've done the mile and the strong a lot of times, so I know my strengths in this race. And used them well today, so absolutely happy.
Yeah, your fitness, right, and Xander and I were speaking of this, your fitness as of late has just taken off. And I think you're still so new to the sport where this is not peak Greyson Kilgore by any means. And what you were able to do in Anaheim a couple weekends ago as well, too, is just, or last weekend, actually.
Last weekend,
yeah, I mean, it's just phenomenal, So you're definitely maybe new to the sport, but as far as your fitness, you're going to be a threat down the road in any race that you show up to at this point.
Thank you.
With that, knowing that, I mean, does that motivate you a little bit more? I mean, how does training change?
Sure.
Knowing now that going sub 30 or what maybe Dylan Scott is capable of the World Championship or what Hunter is capable at High Rocks, like what type of mentality do we go at now, knowing you're a competitor?
Yeah. Well, I know I'm not a young man, but I'm young enough. I got a lot of years left. And I know that I'm not new to racing. I've been racing since I was a child, college decathlete. I've got a lot of reps in racing and even in like indoor track and field. Indoor racing is something I'm very used to. in High Rocks and DEKA, you need a lot of reps in the events themselves, right?
Sure.
So showing up fit to a High Rock, showing up fit to a DEKA doesn't mean you're going to execute until you've got experience and reps under your belt. So
Right.
as far as training, I went as a full-time hybrid fitness coach in June. And at that time, before that, I was working about three different jobs.
Oh, wow.
And training maybe 6 to 7 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at this, I thought, man, I've got more in me. So literally doubled my training hours and went kind of all in on this lifestyle of coaching hybrid fitness and racing hybrid fitness. And that's paying off big time. So
Love it.
I'm not doing anything fancy, man. And I think a good coach would tell you it doesn't take fancy work.
It doesn't.
It
Nope.
takes
Agreed.
consistent, safe reps over and over again.
And just time,
yeah,
right?
time.
Just time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you came into the sport, you know, you weren't necessarily a name that were like, oh, Greyson, we're winning this race. But,
Sure.
I mean, now going forward, you are going to have that target on your back in every race. So, like you said, time it eventually paid off, and it looks like it's clearly doing that for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was hanging out with David Magida before the race, and he says, Greyson, someday it's going to be your time, but not today.
Well, where's Magida at right now? So
I have huge respect for him and his leadership in the sport.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
talking about his investment in even building the sport, and he's been a great mentor and in a lot of ways a legend for me to follow.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
it was fun getting those words from him today. That was actually a huge boost of confidence. And,
I love it.
And that's him saying, like, you're kind of here. We see you.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm grateful for those words.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And as far as how the race played out today, you know, you said yourself it's only your third time in the DEKA Fit format. So given that, you know, throughout the course of the year, not all these guys are racing every event. So it's probably the first time that you've even raced someone like Dylan or Nick in the DEKA Fit. Knowing that, sort of, did the race play out the way that you might have expected? And at what point did you think, okay, this might be happening? Like, I can make my move now and get a shot at this podium. Like, how did it live up to those expectations?
Absolutely. The race kind of went exactly. I thought, if I'm going to have a shot at the podium, it's got to go a certain way for me. The beautiful thing about this sport is, even though I've never raced Ryker in a fit and I've never raced Scott in a fit, there's a lot of data points we can look at. So if you're a good coach, you're paying attention to split times and when people are surging, when they're executing, and you can kind of pick and choose where someone says that their strength is. So I know that Dylan is going to erg and he's going to run, and Ryker's going to run like a madman. And Ryker has no weaknesses, right? So I thought if it's going to happen for me, I've got to use my strengths. I have an 11:11 strong time right now. So I know my bike is dangerous, my tank is dangerous.
Which it was, man.
And I know my burpees are dangerous. So I've raced enough to get onto a run and just know my line. And I'm thinking, okay, like, I think it was on the second to last run, Ryker, I passed him and he passed me back. And I just thought, I'm just going to hang out because I know if I press this run, I might cross that red line for me. But I know I have strength to come. I had a few cards left to play. So the race went pretty much exactly as I had hoped. And, man, I couldn't be happier with that execution.
Awesome. Yeah, speaking of that, the bike, going back to the assault bike, you and Nick Ryker were not side by side by any means, but you went into it first, I believe, right? No. I'm sorry, you went into it third.
Yeah.
But the second you got right next to Dylan Scott, you could see how the cadence was just much different from Dylan. Granted, different position from Dylan Scott, but, man, you hammer that bike, and your splits, I believe, were about 15 to 20 seconds faster than Nick Ryker. That is where you made the move. Did you know that, of course, going into it, that you had to go sub 60 on that bike?
Yeah, you know, I got kind of sick of, in the DEKA Fit community, everyone calling it like the murder bike or the death bike. And honestly, in my wrestling and track and like relay background, when I see enough people scared of something, I think I'm going to make that my strength.
Sure.
So
I
trained all summer and all fall to the point where I'm just like, I'm not scared of that bike anymore. I want people to kind of be afraid of me on the bike.
I love it.
So
I love it.
I was talking with Dylan before the race, and the dude is a statistician. He's a great coach and a great racer. And he was just saying, he's like, hey man, I know I'm going to need 30 seconds ahead of you in the burpees or else you're going to close on me. I've seen your stats. And so I know he's a great racer. And towards the end of the race, I didn't think that I was going to beat him, but I thought if there's a chance, I'm going to pull up next to him on the bike and throw a surge and see if I scare him a little bit.
Absolutely, yes, yes. The great move. It's a great strategy.
Yeah. And it didn't pan out. He beat me. He beat me by a long ways today.
Hey, that's all right.
But as a competitor and as a friend of these guys, But yeah, I'm gonna try to jump on a bike next to him and see if I can ruffle his feathers a little
Absolutely.
bit. So
That's awesome.
I'm happy with that performance.
And especially, it's not just, they probably know what you can do in a strong, and, it's just focusing on the stations. And it's one thing to hammer the bike, but what does that cost you later on? And
Right.
you were able to run
Right.
with Nick coming
You
out of
were,
the bike,
yeah.
and we could tell that, okay, he's got enough left to
Yeah.
where you might have another surge in you, and
Yeah.
that seemed to play out over the rest of the race.
I've been messing with that strategy. Everyone knows the run after the bike is not great. What you got to do is get your chest over your feet, lean forward, great posture, get your feet underneath you, and just try to run and recover. And there's the over shoulders is a recovery station, and there's a few more places where you can punch it. So
Yeah, I believe it.
If people are like racing later this week, I think there's some great tips in there for the mile and the strong as well.
Yeah, which we're excited to watch you do. I'm competing against you in the co-ed mile,
baby.
so I'm excited to be
Yeah.
side by side. I will say, if I don't have a 30-second lead on you on the bike, then I definitely will not be catching you. But Greyson, man, new to the sport, congratulations, second place, but
Thank you so much.
a threat from here on out, my friend. You're going to have a target on your back, which I'm sure you love. And I love the statement, not being afraid of the bike, but being afraid of him on the bike. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead and trademark that. Put it on a shirt. So,
I will.
Greyson, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Of course, man. Awesome. Very knowledgeable, too.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice to get some coaching tips as well.
Yeah.
It's like we're looking at next year and trying to,
Absolutely.
make some moves in
Write
age
it
group.
down,
And write that down.
All right, I think we're going to get Dylan Scott. He's off. He's currently talking to Jack. Oh, Morgan. All right. What's going on? Chilling. Are you having a good day?
I am.
Okay, good, because, of course,
Yeah.
that's what we're going to
Well,
ask.
you've had a lot more time to recover than these guys. So
Yes,
you
that's
are
very
probably
true.
chilling
Yeah.
by now.
And you're not as sweaty. I apologize to the
I
guys.
change clothes.
Yeah.
Went to the bathroom, wiped myself off with soap.
There
I
you
have to- I
go.
have to take a flight in like 5 hours, so
Oh,
I gotta
okay.
get back to
So,
the airport.
yeah.
I can't be sneaky next to the people who are sitting next to me.
Hey,
so.
fair enough. Fair enough. Morgan, speaking of which, you said it's a good day. Are we proud of our performance today? Are we happy with the position? Go ahead and talk us through it.
I think the first thing I'm going to say is I think this is the happiest I've ever been for a third place finish. So
Okay.
I know obviously I won the race last year, and I think a lot of people were surprised that I won the race because I think people thought that I came out of nowhere. And this year, I feel like I didn't really have any expectation of myself to repeat. I knew where my strengths lie. I knew where I've been working through training throughout this last season. And unfortunately, about a month ago, I got really sick. So I had about 2 weeks of just being under the weather, not being able to train. And it took me a long time to come back from that. I had a pretty poor performance at High Rocks last week, and there was a slight inkling of doubt that I was going to even be here. I just think I mentally wasn't engaged in the race last weekend, and I think I could still tell. I could still feel in my movements that I wasn't recovering, or I wasn't recovering well. So to come out here, I had zero expectation to repeat at all or do anything besides have fun. And I started that race. And the first few steps, I was like, man, this is so sick to be here. Like, look at all these people that are here for the same reason.
This is a
about
cool
to hurt.
arena.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
It's super cool. I would say,
I mean, you're up
I
on
love this.
we're up on the big screen right now. I mean, how
This
cool
is
is
new.
that?
It's
Yeah.
new. I love it. I love to see it. But yeah, I mean, when I first started the race, I was like, man, this is actually this is awesome. What a cool opportunity I get to do and compete against some of the fittest people in the world right now. Whatever happens, happens. I'm so happy to be here. I think I fought really hard. There was times of doubt for sure on the ski erg. I'm like, man, this hurts. But we fought. We pulled through. I ran well. I'm really stoked with the performance, and I'm really happy for Lauren and Kat. They crushed it. I think it was a really great battle between Kat and I. She pulled away at the end, but
It was a great battle. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so stoked, honestly.
Okay, good,
I'm
good.
really content, and I think this is a great way to end my season. I'm going to take a few weeks off now and chill and recover, really get my body right. But I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy.
You know, I don't know what it feels like to be a world champ by any means.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that feeling's like of going in as the number one dog other than Lauren Weeks. We could discuss that
Right.
another time. But
Right.
you are the world champ. And then, of course, getting third the next year,
Yeah.
where that just mentally sets with someone. But if you're happy with your performance, I mean, it's a whole year space in between.
For sure.
Like you said, getting sick, you traveled.
Yeah.
All that takes into account of
Yeah.
what someone can bring on race day.
Right. I think everyone deals with their own setbacks throughout the year, right? And I think where I was at last year is different than where I was at this year.
Sure.
And so I dealt whatever cards that I was dealt this year. I think I performed well. I dealt with adversity. I'm happy. I didn't give up. So I feel like in that sense, I'm so stoked. Like
Absolutely.
regardless of place, first, third, or eighth, if I got, I would still be just as happy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good mentality right there.
Thanks. Thanks. I appreciate it.
You know, sort of talking about that and how your build up maybe wasn't what you wanted, and how that maybe just took away all expectations. 5 seconds into the race, when you see Lauren take off, you know, does it, like, with maybe less pressure on yourself, is it like, okay, that's happening, but I'm just going to do my thing and you know, and ease into my race? And it seemed like that's how it played out.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I knew she was going to go out hard.
Right,
It's Lauren
right.
Yates. So she darted out so quickly. I just started laughing. I was laughing in my head. I'm like, man, I knew she was going to do that. Don't go with her.
Right. Don't blow up
Don't
early.
blow up early. You're going to blow up early if you go with her. So I felt pretty content and comfortable with my race plan, and I executed exactly how I wanted it to, and I knew she was going to do that. So it didn't really change my mindset regarding where I felt like I should be in the race, because I knew she was going to be way ahead, to be honest. But I felt content with being uncomfortable today. I think that's a big win. Last week I couldn't say the same, and this week I feel like I executed, and I'm stuck with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Morgan, you're no longer someone who's going to be an underdog in this sport by any means. I mean, you've podiumed every single race since the World Championships for sure.
Yeah.
You've won a few as well too. It's like you are going to have a target on your back, and
Right.
when you toe the line, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, there's Morgan. All right, she's here today. We're going to bring it." So you have that face in this sport right now.
Yeah.
So a third place is just something to be proud of as well too, which you said you are.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Morgan.
Thank you so
Very
much,
proud
guys.
of you.
I appreciate it.
Of
Thanks
course.
for doing this.
Of course,
Absolutely.
always. And we'll see you at the next one.
All right. See ya. Thanks, guys.
Well, good mentality from the former world champ right there. So
Absolutely.
that's awesome.
It's great to get that insight too, right? You know, we see the athletes on the start line. We don't necessarily know what their lead up was like or what their mindset is. So to hear that from Morgan was pretty cool. And
Absolutely.
now you're joined by the champ himself, Dylan Scott.
All right, man. Where's the world champ hat, shirt? Did we make any of that? Did your kid have that ready for you at home, or
Just wait for the award ceremony.
Oh, okay. Oh, I like it.
Be patient. You might want to keep the live stream for the award ceremony.
I want to see that. All right.
Yeah.
If not, I'm gonna get my phone out for it.
If not, get your phone out for it. But we'll have something colorful for
I
you.
love it. Dylan Scott,
Yes, sir.
your first world title. How does it feel?
First word in DEKA. I've got an age group title in the high rocks.
Okay. All right.
Me and
fair.
old mate, Mr. David.
That's
McGee.
true. That's true. You did get that.
We
Okay.
did get that. But
Okay.
yes,
First individual world title.
First
How does it feel?
Good. It feels like I came out and executed on fitness that I've built. Whenever you can run a race plan exactly how you said that you were going to run it, and it feels like you expect it to feel, that means that you've done a really good job in tailoring your training to the stimulus that the race requires, and you've applied it well. And that's how today felt.
Awesome.
Yeah.
At any point, did you have any doubt as far as any station? Nick Ryker, he spoke with us just momentarily that he knew he had the lightest match early to try to have any chance of beating you.
Yep.
When he was ahead, did you have any moment of doubt right there, or walk us through that?
No. So coming into this entire race, this entire week has been extremely stressful. Like, it was not an ideal week to be coming into a world championship. Extremely stressful. Picked up like a little chest infection, and I've just been. That's why you hear my voice. It sounds like I've been yelling a lot, but it's from coughing. Like the last 3 days, I've just been
Or just ran an extremely hard race. That
pish
too.
posh. But so I was a little worried because like my breathing wasn't great, and I was like, God, it's dry in here. I really hope that my airways don't just kind of start constricting. So I was worried about that. But as we got into the race, I was like, it's bad, but it's not going to be too bad. So that was good. And by the fifth run, I knew that I was like, I'm not going to have that be the problem. Early on, I was like, these guys have gone out too quick.
Right.
Every single one of them went out too quick because I have a very good feel for my pacing. And I was like, either I am just so off right now, which nothing in my warm-up indicated that I was having a rate of perceived exertion that was different than what I was outputting, or they're all going out too fast. And that was the case. So we go out the first run. I'm like, I know that my lunges aren't the fastest, but the way that I was keeping it within a 6-second kind of pocket, when I row, I know I can out-row people.
Right.
So that closed in. The boxes closed in. And when Nick was off the lead and I was behind him and I was like, I'm catching Nick, I know Nick is a superior pure runner to me. If I catch Nick on a run, I'm going to take his head.
Right.
He's going to go.
Because we know how you are on the ski and everything.
Yeah.
As well,
So if I can run you down into the ski, and I looked over and he was pulling 152 and I was pulling 142, I was like, I'm going to put 10 seconds into you right here. The goal was to lead off the rower and never give the lead back.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty close to what I did. I couldn't lead off the rower, but I led pretty much going into the ski.
Yep.
And then took it from there.
Right.
Yeah, so the only time I was really worried was the first, maybe 5 minutes of the race.
Sure.
Just making sure that is my body going to allow me to breathe and run and execute.
Because it does appear to be a different strategy compared to last year. You took the lead last year at the beginning. You're the front runner as well, too, and ultimately finishing in fourth in the process. Yeah. Do you think now taking the step back and not being those, running with Derek and all the Spaniards going out hot, or was it still about the same pace, similar as well?
Yeah,
or?
No, it was similar.
Okay.
I think so. Right. I think last year, dude, I don't know what about December me getting sick is, but I came in last year much worse.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
tell Yancey we need to move the world championship
back to October.
I don't know what, but either way, I came in much worse last year, and last year I suffered through the race. I took it out at what I thought was manageable, but for however I was feeling that day, the effort was just too much. Today, I took it out the same way, but the effort just wasn't, it wasn't as imposing upon the condition I was coming in with.
Sure.
So I don't think I ran dumb last year. I think last year just everybody else didn't go out as hard.
Sure. Yeah.
And I went out almost exactly the same, but was able to sustain it this time.
Right. Yeah. Different athletes in the field that may argue the case of who's going to take out a hot and who's not. It does determine who's, of course, racing.
For sure.
So, yep.
And that's what we had just seen, right? We just got done watching a women's race where what we thought might happen happened, where 3 seconds into the race, Lauren was already in the lead, had a gap, never relinquished it. And we were talking like, maybe that might happen. Someone might try to take out the first run. It's not going to be Dylan because there's no one in this field that is as in tune with the effort level that is necessary and can be sustained for the demands of the race. And it seemed like, for you to be in 7th, 8th, whatever it was in that first run, that's someone racing with confidence because you know exactly what you're capable of and you're going to execute that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I expected to actually be a little higher up. I didn't expect to be in 7th, like coming out of the lunges or whatnot. But again, how it felt, I was like, I've raced all of these guys, and there are people in front of me right now that are just, this isn't computing.
It felt like you were in front.
It felt like I knew that what was going to transpire over the next 8 to 10 minutes was going to be this reshuffling that reordered things back to, okay, you applied too much effort early, and now you pay the price.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, and I liked having the Spaniards out here.
Yeah,
it was good.
Awesome.
It was good having some international competition
for sure.
Good.
Which you're, of course, not, nothing new to you, of course, by any means, being in High Rocks and everything. So,
dude, I love the international aspect of racing. It has brought me some really, really good friends.
Sure.
It's brought me some perspective on the world. And it's just interesting. It's just interesting to see both the differences and the similarities in people that all bond over the same thing, which is fitness, but all come to it from these different economic or social or just kind of perspectives.
It's no longer in a closed box. You see the outside perspective as well.
It's a lot of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dylan, I mean, we were having this conversation when you're finishing the line. Where does this put you? I mean, in the all-time greats, is this Mount Rushmore? What's your own opinion? I mean, I would like to think that you, not just your wife and your kiddo, your son, right?
Yeah, my son.
Yeah, your son. Yep. Your son and your wife obviously think you're the number one greatest in the world, in which they should. But what about yourself, man? What type of confidence does this bring? Or is this more of like a, it is what it is, but I'm going to grow from here? Or is it, no, I'm here, and my name's Dylan Scott, and I will be the first male to win a High Rocks World Champion and DEKA Fit World Champion?
Oh, man. So I'll say, my kid's going to think I'm the greatest because he just doesn't know any better yet.
They should.
He's just like.
Wait till his teenage years, then it's going to be different.
Yeah. Now I'm going to sit him down and be like, son, you see this right here? You come out here, I would have waxed you. Just keep it in perspective until you beat me. But my wife will definitely not think that I'm the greatest. I promise you that, because I don't I sit at home and talk about these are my deficiencies.
Sure.
So I'm very I try to be very honest and analytical with myself.
Sure. We're in our harshest critic as well too, right? To yourself. So
I have to look at, there are a lot of people who weren't here today.
Right.
Rich Ryan wasn't here.
Sure.
Ryan Kemp wasn't here. Rylan Chadeg wasn't here. Now that 29:05 would be competitive at any single year.
Absolutely.
The winning times for this race have been in the either high 28s or low 29s every year.
Right.
With now standards that are make it a little slower. So a 29:05 could have very much won some of the past races, but they're not here. So I have to take that into consideration if I'm going to beat my chest, defending world champs not out here.
Sure.
It might be me now, but I can't.
I mean, there is nothing you could have done. You raced against the gentleman that you towed a line with, of course,
for
right?
sure.
So,
but I that's the perspective I like to keep.
Sure. Okay.
You know, you can win titles, you can win things, but if the people who have won it in the past aren't the ones defending it,
okay,
I know I'm good. I don't doubt that I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
If I did doubt that I was good, I wouldn't be able to perform because it would get in my head. But I'll never overspeak to my abilities, and I would rather be an underdog than beat my chest and then go out there and underperform.
Leave it to the analyst on all that, right?
Yeah, just leave it to that. Let them decide.
All right, fair enough.
And you get to race those guys in the event that they've been focusing on, which is why they're not here. So
right,
you kind of have this data point, and you can take that into other environments.
Yeah, I mean, I can take the fact that I raced Dallas the other week against Ryan Kent and Rich Ryan and put, Ryan Kent had a bad day. Rich Ryan almost closed on me because
you beat them last year at the World Championships too. Keep in mind.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have beat them before, and not undermining them by any means because they're the all-time greats as well too. But
for sure,
man, you definitely belong on that list. I mean, you do. There's arguments. There's no arguments to say that you do not belong on that list. You have enough wins and now two world titles underneath your belt to make your statement. So and you're still so young to the sport, man.
I'm trying to think of like an NFL or NBA comp. Like I don't know who it would be.
As far as who to compare you to?
Yeah, like who would like.
Great question. All right, I'll have to think about that.
That's something I'm trying.
Are you competing again on the mile?
No, I'm flying back home.
So this is it.
This is just touch and go.
Okay. So wow. All right, one and done. I love it.
Yeah, one and done.
I like it.
I'm on the road a lot already for work and everything,
Okay.
and it was like I'm gonna come race this, go home with family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, weekends are weekends. We need to be home. So
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one to think about. I got to think about who's like.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the next time you're on screen or something, I'll have to try to think about that and stuff too. Maybe I just send you a message of who that.
We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
We will. I'm a basketball guy, so I'll think of a basketball player for sure. But
I like it.
Dylan, any last statements? I mean, how does it feel to be world champ?
It feels like the work is worth it.
Perfect.
The work is worth it on the time because. So there are times when I train. And I'm I have two brains, basically. I have Coach Dylan, I have Athlete Dylan. And they're working together to try to create the best product they possibly can. And there are times where I'm doing workouts where Athlete Dylan is suffering. And he's just like, I don't want to be in this place. And Coach Dylan comes in and goes, there's going to be a moment, there's going to be a day, there's going to be a time that you're going to have to be in this spot. And you're going to have to be comfortable with it. And I want you to do that right now in training so that it does not surprise you on the race floor.
Right.
And when you can put that together, that's what leads to the ability to win world titles.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So
I love it, man. I love it. Xander, you got any more questions?
No, I think that summed it up pretty well.
So. Dylan, congratulations,
Thank you
my
very
man.
much.
First individual world title, and I'm excited to see what you're about to do on the podium.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
All
hey,
right.
Thank you guys so much for putting the live stream.
Absolutely,
Dude,
always.
Great content. I loved having that board up there because I used it to watch the race, and I was like, where are these boys at?
I figured that was going to be used for an advantage in a lot of cases.
They do it in track and field all the time. They're like, where are they at?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I can't say thank you enough for putting this production on. It looks great. You guys, I hope you all have a great rest of the weekend.
Yes. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, bud. Congratulations.
Bye, guys.
All right, and I think the only person we didn't get the chance to commentate over, or to interview, is Lauren Weeks herself.
Yeah, I think we were maybe hoping to get her. Then the men's race started, and it is what it is. But yeah, great to hear from our men's podium and Morgan as well.
Yes,
a lot of insight you just wouldn't get because we don't know. We have numbers, we have seat times, we have past performances. We don't know what is going on because all these athletes have their lives that they're managing,
right.
In addition to what they're doing on the race course.
No idea what the training leading into it. I mean, it's been a few months since the last DEKA Fit race, so we're just not sure. Right here, we got the men's top 10. As you see, Dylan Scott definitely pulling it away on the 5K time, which honestly, a 17:08 is probably a casual 5K. Could have done that multiple rounds. But a 29:33 from Greyson Kilgore, really solidifying sub 30 because his fastest time coming into it is 30 flat. So, man, 29:33 was a great statement. And Nick Ryker breaking 30, I believe, for the second time in his career. Something that just back in like 2023 was hard for him to do. But now it seems like he is a high 29, low 30 guy every single time.
And for Greyson, who, maybe isn't quite the runner as some of these other guys, for him to do what he did, I mean, you heard it from himself, what he was able to do on the stations. coming away with that 29-33 second place.
Awesome. Well, guys, we got Lauren Weeks to come and join us for the final podium interview. How are you? Lauren. We've raced in a couple of things, but don't worry. I'm a nobody in the sport. Lauren, congratulations on winning the World Championship. Of course, this is the one World Championship that we've said that you don't have underneath your belt, or like Thanos collecting his Infinity Stones, of course. This is now something you can add to your gauntlet. How does it feel?
DEKA is a very painful race when you're going hard.
Absolutely.
So it definitely had to work very hard for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I would say based off what we saw from here, it didn't look like you were working too hard at all, because everything just looked so effortless from your abilities. And this is just, I mean, not only in DEKA Fit, but everything else you've done, right? High Rocks, of course, being one of them, that's definitely showcased very well. But when we did the inaugural Battle Bunker as well, too, I mean, you just had, I think you just had your daughter at that time. So, I mean, to see your abilities in showcasing all perspectives of the obstacle course racing, Battle Bunker, and all the hybrid fitness racing as well too, it doesn't seem like, as far as hard, is really something I would put when I watch you perform. So
No, I appreciate that. So like in my more recent background, like CrossFit was a sport that I was trying to compete at a fairly high level in, and that is a pretty short distance, but I think I'm actually more comfortable the longer an event goes. So because DEKA is half the distance of High Rocks, and like any other running race that I'm trying to be in, it's a different type of pain, and,
Sure.
and one that my body is not super comfortable with at the moment.
yeah, I can see that.
And we saw right from the first opening strides of the race that you came up with a gap pretty much right away. I mean, coming into this event today, was it a certain pace? Was it a feeling? Was it playing off your competitors? I mean, it didn't seem like that, because even before a turn, you're already in front of them. So I guess, what was your approach coming in? We saw how it unfolded.
Yeah, so I'm perfectly willing to be fully open with it. Like, I know that the running is where I'm going to be able to potentially make a gap in a race like this, especially when two of my weakest stations are towards the back half of the race. Like, I'm not great on the bike, and I'm really not great on the tank. So if I don't go into the bike with like about a minute lead, my chances of crossing that line first are pretty small. So, and I know that, which means I have to work really, really hard
Sure.
in the first half of the race to be able to give myself that comfort zone to still be able to pull through at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we noticed on some of the splits, I would say assault bike-wise, you were pretty equal to most other females. But we did notice on the sleds, of course, compared to Morgan and Catherine, as far as what the split times were as well. But you had such a dominant lead at that point that it really didn't make that much of a difference. But is there ever a time you light a match and you think that you went out just a little too hot? Or has there ever been a moment like that before? Or at any time, honestly, I should probably ask, did you know you were on world record pace? Or do you just kind of go with it?
What did I PR? I actually don't know.
You set another world record. Absolutely. I say world record. PR for you. Yeah, but you broke it, I think, by 7 seconds is what it was. But I didn't know if that was maybe on the radar at all. I noticed you didn't run with a watch or anything. Or had someone yelling at you maybe off the course?
No, that was not on the radar. I considered running with a watch, but not for the time. I wanted to kind of track my heart rate. So I thought about putting like a heart rate monitor and wearing a watch. But I decided last minute I just didn't want I also put my time chip on my watch wrist, and I didn't like having both there, so that was kind of the final decision.
Fair. Hey,
Decision got made for you, but hey, it worked out.
Being comfortable is way more important than knowing splits. So yes.
Maybe if I had put my timing chip on the other wrist, I would have actually worn it, but that made the decision for me.
Yeah. Is that ever in your mind at all, going for personal record, or is it more so running the race and the competitors you have and getting the win? Does that? I would assume the win solidifies more than the time itself. But is that ever in the back of your mind, oh, wow, I could really maybe break this time, I'm going to go for it? Or if it happens, it happens?
So going into any race, I do want to PR every single time. But at the end of the day, like, it is a race. So I do have to play off of the other people around me. So yes, a PR is something I want, but it's not goal number one.
Okay. Perfect. Well, either way, you still did it today, so that's awesome, and you put on a show for everyone at home. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dinner, you got it.
No, I mean, I think just at a certain point, right, second half of the race, you start lapping athletes that ended up on the podium. And I think, you just said your mindset first is it's a race, I'm trying to win the race. At a certain point, maybe even though you talked about the bike and the sled not being your strongest, but at a certain point, you're probably at least thinking a little bit like, oh, I'm passing the person that's in second or third. Like, this is going well. Like, is it hard to stay on that same level of effort, or are you hurting so much that you're just going as hard as you can anyway, even though if you think that the race might be won at that point?
No, I'm going as hard as I can throughout the entire race. Like this is a short race. It's about a half hour long. Like you're redlining almost the entire time, and where I am going to make up time is on those runs. So like I have to be pushing that red line as close as I possibly can. And there are some stations that just naturally you're going to be able to recover. So like the sit-ups is a station that you come off of it and like you will come under that red line, so you can kind of push right back up on it. And there are a few other stations like that, but that's definitely a big one.
Right.
And then like the skier, my legs get a break, vice versa. Like if I come off of the bike, they don't love running after that. They also don't love running after the sled push, but after that, you only have one more run. So
it
like,
kind of mentally helps a little bit, right?
It's not a big deal at that point. You just one more 500, send it, and then see what you can do on burpees.
I love it. Run hard no matter what, because that's just the way it goes. Well, Lauren, I said it countless times throughout the race and everything as well, too. You, and I'm sure you hear from everybody. I don't know where your husband stands. And, of course, now you have your daughter to look up to you and everything, which your videos are cute, by the way, on social media. But you are the greatest of all time to do this sport, hybrid racing, whatever we can call it. Greater than any male that has ever done it as well, too. You are the pedestal. You are the main person. And I know you're a very humble person, so you probably would not call yourself that. But do you ever have that in your mindset as far as, it feels good being up here, and you lead by example, which is awesome. Your leadership and how you encourage the other female athletes. You coach as well, too, with your husband as well. I know one of the athletes that you coach. And so it's cool to see you are exactly the example that we want for this sport, not only being the greatest of all time, but just encouraging others to be their own version of great and whatever that may be capable of. But does that, do you ever just sit back and you're like, this feels good? This feels good to be on top? Or?
So I always want to be able to be in the arena to be able to compete. Like it's hard to qualify for these races. So like to be able to qualify and still be in the arena, like that is what I am most grateful for. In terms of the performances, like really, I don't think anybody actually cares how well I do or don't do, and that's not where I'm going to be making an impact on the sport. And I understand that. I know that the impact that I can make is going to be beyond like my performances, but like what can I do? What can I show? Like how can I interact with people? How can I like show them love and gratitude and uplift others? Like that is where I am going to make the biggest impact.
Love it.
And for the longest amount of time, like how long can I actually compete?
Right.
So I am, that's where I want to lean into is like, how can I best uplift the people around me? Because that's what's going to make an impact moving forward. It's like, I don't think anybody actually cares how I perform.
Yeah, but using that pedestal of being up on the top performers, so many people look up to you. So therefore, you can use that to your advantage of uplifting a bunch of others as well, too, right?
So it's given me a platform where I can showcase that. So yes, I am super grateful for that, because without these sports and without the performances, I wouldn't have the platform.
Right.
But now that I do, I can push that forwards and kind of see what everybody else can do.
That's awesome. Well, Lauren, you are, I think, the first ever to win a Hyrox and a DEKA World Championship, of course. So now you have that to add. And congratulations on your effort today. It was amazing to watch, as always. And we're excited to see what the future holds, of course, for future DEKA races.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. Good job today, Lauren.
Thank you so
course,
much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think that about sums it up for the elite races.
Yeah, I think so. Heard from almost all the podium contenders.
And Catherine, I think, is the only one we haven't heard from.
Great to get that insight. So,
well, awesome. Well, Lauren, do you want to you want to send us off? Tell everyone at home. Thank you for tuning in. And
Yeah, thank you for tuning in, guys. There's some elite races in the doubles coming up, a lot of them, so stay tuned.
Which
At 2 p.m.
yeah, are you competing with your husband today?
No,
Okay.
he is back. He's back home right now. I'm really bummed that
Oh,
we're not. So
yeah.
we're gonna have to requalify and be able to come back next year.
Are you competing in anything else this
No,
weekend?
this was my only
This was
race
it?
this weekend,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So this is all we get of Lauren this week, folks.
So
I'm sorry.
The champs are both one and done,
They're
but
one
still
and
a
done,
lot of
that's right.
action to see coming on. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Great to have Lauren Weeks joining Luke and I here for these last few minutes. And yeah, a lot of action still to come. So stay tuned to the OSR Report all weekend. We've got elite team races coming up, Mile tomorrow and Strong on Sunday.
Awesome. 2 p.m. Eastern time today. We're getting it in. Let's go, guys.